What's good, everybody? Welcome to the Red Chill, your weekly one-stop shop for everything movies, TV, pop culture, and anything in between. You can find us on all your podcast services, YouTube, social media, and wherever. Just look for the Red Chill. We'd appreciate it if you could leave us a like, a comment, or anything really. Any kind of support, always greatly appreciated. As we're trying to grow this channel. And if you have any feedback, just let us know. We're trying to grow this together, make it something together. A show for the people, by the people. Anyways, I'm your host, Root by Root. With me, my C3PO to my R2D2, my co-host, Shabzy.
Hey.
You always seem so surprised when I go to you. You need to be ready with that. You're always just like, oh shit, camera on me. Anyways, welcome. This is Andor, recapped and reviewed, where we break down each episode of Andor as scene by scene, and we give you our personal thoughts and insight. This is episode 6, The Eye. Released on October 12th, 2022. Written once again by Dan Gilroy and directed by Susanna White. And as always, before we go deep into spoilers and do a deep breakdown, let's give them our personal thoughts. Shabs, what did you think overall of this episode?
I loved it.
What do you love about it?
I have nothing more to say. I loved every single thing about it. Like, I mean, obviously, we will, but yeah. Why don't you first tell me?
I totally agree. What a goddamn episode! Holy shit! I had there's a final shot on the episode of somebody's facial expression, and that was the exact facial expression I had. It was just, it got better and better, and it started great, and then, yeah, it was amazing. Like, there were things that I at first was like thinking about, like maybe this could be better or whatever, but now thinking back, honestly, I loved it. It was amazing. I like, this is amazing television.
I was halfway through, and how I normally try to do a little bit of an analysis, and I was like, oh, let me try and keep a track of themes and this and that, and then like I think 20 minutes in, I just stopped writing notes because I couldn't stop watching it, and I was getting goosebumps after scene, and I was just like, I can't think about anything else other than like what's happening, and I had literal actual, like, I'm not even a Star Wars fan, but I had actual like, oh whoa, like every like 5-10 minutes I was like, whoa, what's that? And yeah, it was amazing.
That's so funny that you say that. In my notes, it's the same thing, where it's like I was taking notes and I was writing this and this comment, and at some point that just stops. And then I had to go back, and I was like, oh, I still had these thoughts and stuff. I added that back, but yeah, at some point I was like, I just need to. Now I just want to watch this. Exactly. Okay, it's so hard to talk about this without spoilers, but I think general consensus is just go watch this if you want to watch some good television. You don't need to be into Star Wars. This is just good, thrilling television with good characters, good writing, good filmmaking. And yeah, I don't think you need to be into Star Wars.
Amazing sci-fi fantasy elements.
Yeah, and like I said, it's a thrill ride. They do tension so well, and if you're down for that sort of thing, go for it. So far, I think we've gotten 2 little mini movies out of this, and I hope it keeps going. This is amazing. Like, if you watch it, just watch it in chunks of 3 episodes, and you got yourself little mini movies, and you'll have an amazing time.
So right before we get into the actually we'll give our ratings, and then I want to use that as a segue into the question I really wanted to ask you before we start the recap.
Yeah, sure. My rating, honestly, I only, because I feel like give them room to grow, I'll give them a 9.5, but I'm really close to a 10 because it was really it was what I wanted, and it's like, maybe, like I was saying, I had some expectations and thoughts of how it might go, and the way they did it was different from that, but I think what they did was great. So I think it's a very high 9.5 with a close to a 10. And it's only not a 10 because if they do better than this is literally going to be one of my favorite Star Wars projects ever. But yeah, what do you think?
Yeah. So I was very much similar to you, where I was like, I'm very close to a 10. And then I was like 70% in. I was like, okay, this is a 10. And then when I finished the episode, I was like, this is like an 11.5.
Yeah, honestly, it was the same. Where like
Where,
I thought this show is amazing, and then they just kept on getting better. Where my favorite part of the show is actually what happened at the end, which
so yeah,
is crazy because
all
so
the way,
much cool shit happened. But that was literally there's something at the
exactly.
end that was just like, okay, that's it. That I love that.
I couldn't, I like, it was, we've gone through 5 episodes, and they've been like, even though they're not an hour long each, they have felt like an hour long each, and it's felt like we've spent so much time. So when I was like waiting for this as like the almost like a payoff to all 5 of those episodes, even though it's a mini arc.
Yeah.
In my mind, it was like, obviously, I'm expecting a climax like season, like a thing like season episode 3 is almost. I said season 3, and but it went like so far beyond that I was like, it's everything I could have asked for, and it exceeded even more than that. And the best part I loved about it was that obviously in terms of story and characters, it's like amazing. But the Star Wars stuff you get to see in this, it's like mind blowing how Mandalorian feels like so much more quaint in comparison to this, even though Mandalorian is such a great show. Where this feels like this is the first thing I've seen, like maybe since Empire Strikes Back, where everything works so perfectly that it's like the perfect blend of everything. That's why I was like, it goes higher than a 10 for sure.
Yeah, and it doesn't rely on nostalgia at all. It just uses it as set
Exactly.
dressing perfectly. Yeah, it's amazing.
And,
Honestly,
and shows some new stuff also. Like
yeah,
it's paying homage to everything while adding in their own little thing, and it all like works so well together.
yeah. Honestly, again, I think it's a 10. I just want to give it one more little inch to grow, but this is pretty pitch perfect. Where I am
Yeah.
really excited for more of this. Where every episode so far has gotten better, and I actually had a thought today, watching it, thinking you're actually right. It does feel like an hour, but I think that the 40-minute format is like perfect for the show with the pacing that they're
Yeah.
doing. I actually this is like one of the times where like I don't think this needs to be longer. I'm glad it's not shorter, and they chose the exact perfect amount of time, and
If it
they're
was
using it
longer,
right.
it would have been worse.
Exactly.
Sorry. Yeah.
And they're using their time perfectly. It feels thought
Exactly.
out. It feels well paced. It feels like they know where they're going, and there's a plan in place. It feels like when you're watching Breaking Bad, you can
Yes.
tell that they know where the story is going, and they're going
Yeah.
confidently there. You never have that feeling that they're just figuring it out along the way, which I feel like a lot of shows these days have that issue in between.
Lost.
Yeah, but even since then, other shows do it too. So yeah,
I don't know.
again, I think totally agree with you, and I can't wait for the next episode. Which, by the way, little tidbit: first 3 episodes were written directed by Dan Gilroy and his brother. Now these 3 episodes were directed by Susanna White. Next episode is directed and written by totally 2 different people that had nothing to do with the first 6 episodes. And it'd be interesting to see. Maybe it's something like
Yeah.
Boba Fett did, where there was an entire episode that was just something else, like a detour. But yeah, it'd be interesting to see what they do next week. Tune in
But
and find out with us.
First 3 were actually directed by a guy named Toby Haynes and were written by Tony Gilroy.
But I thought
And Dan Gilroy wrote the next 3, the 4, 5, and 6.
Oh, sorry. Thank you for correcting
So it's only
me then.
written by them.
Yeah.
That's the correction I made as well in our last pod, where we compared it to Nightcrawler, but then we were like, obviously the characters are like that, but the cinematography was very close to Nightcrawler as well. But it's directed by other people, and Toby Haynes, like I mentioned, the only thing I saw that he directed that I knew was an episode of Black Mirror of the Star Trek parody. where they go virtual reality, and then so yeah, it was kind of a cool little touch in terms of keeping it in that sci-fi.
I do have to say, Susanna White did an amazing job. I feel like the tension was
Yeah.
so good throughout these 3 episodes and was built great,
Yeah.
perfectly. Pacing was amazing. And yeah, it was awesome. It went from taking characters where I thought I had like no relation to them and I didn't know if I want to see them again to really caring about each one of them. Amazing job.
And
But-
and we've only spent like 2 episodes with most of them, actually.
Exactly.
The ones that you're talking about, other than Andor and maybe Luther.
But yeah, that's our overall thoughts without getting too spoilery. I'm just letting everybody know who hasn't checked it out yet. It's still not a bad time to start. Actually, maybe the perfect time because now you have 2 nice
This would be
movies
the
to sit
perfect
through.
time.
You have about 3 hours of content to get through. I can only highly suggest it. But all right, let's get into detail. Let's do the scene by scene breakdown.
Let's do it. But before that, I wanted to ask you the question was that which arc do you like better?
I think this one.
Because I realized that the first 3 is like a crime thriller, and this next 3 is like a spy thriller, and it's more sci-fi
movie.
than the first one. Yeah. So yeah, I agree with you. I was totally hands down with this one too.
Because the first arc has that problem where for 2 episodes I was wondering where we were going with it.
Yeah. Right.
Where
no, and even I'm not talking about like in terms of how you viewed it, but now that you know what happens.
No, but even then,
like,
the way that the show was set up, I feel like it wasn't clear compared to this one from the first episode onwards. Right. It's like, here's what we're doing. And we're off to the races. There's no guessing of where is this actually going.
I also like that we have like 3 different cool new locations in this, and those feel like a lot, like there's a lot more diversity than just spending time in that grimy, sandy place, you know.
Yeah.
And that we were only there for 3, and we had no idea there was actually no plot in the first 3 episodes.
Yeah.
It was just we were just following Andor, just like being skeevy the whole time and like taking money from people, and then just a little bit of like, oh my god, he's gotten into this, but we didn't really know what was happening. And yeah, you're right. With this one, it's like they're in different, and it's so many cool things that you get to see in terms of just Star Wars, where like I said, like compare that to Mandalorian. It's like, even though Mandalorian goes by its simplicity, like that's what's cool about it, but in this, it's like you get to see every single thing and done like perfectly.
Yeah, I agree.
Yeah. All right, cool. So now let's get into our scene by scene breakdown. So we start with the rebels sort of just like hanging around. They're cold and they're, I think, just tired, and it's morning, obviously, and Nemik and Clem are talking. They're having a little back and forth about, like freedom versus like submitting to the Empire. And Nemik can't sleep, and that's pretty much, yeah. I'm gonna keep the scene description short, and then we'll just get into that.
Yeah, just keep the details in there. And did you notice anything in the opening music like you did last time? It was again some different music.
Yes. I was gonna mention that.
Yeah, what did you notice?
The wood clanking from episode 3 post credits.
Nice.
I was gonna mention that, so I thought maybe we might, and it's funny that we actually don't go to Morlana at all.
And
but
no
maybe
Sarah.
that's what's coming next. No Cyril. I was gonna mention that too. I was like, wow, they actually just. I was like, it wasn't needed in this, so I'm glad they didn't show it. They're obviously saving it for later.
The main officer, the bigger one, his suit is a little bit tailored again, and it's different from everybody else. Like his collars match his gloves and stuff. And in my head canon, that was a little bit of keeping Cyril's spirit alive. It's like he's not here, but we have a character that's basically as pathetic as him.
Yeah. But yeah, and it's a nice scene about morals and all this stuff, like how Nemik normally gets into it. There's obviously foreshadowing at the end of it that Nemik might not make it.
And I think it is implied that he wrote about Andor the night before, and that is probably the last thing that's in that memoir. And
Yes.
he's trying to inspire a rebellion with this memoir.
Hmm.
And maybe he's trying to give that big book to Andor, and it has a part about him because he feels like if he can't convince Andor with this memoir, how can he convince anybody to follow this rebellion?
Right. And I think he has like a little bit of an innocence to him where this another theme that I noticed was like innocence versus corruption that keeps coming up, which is I think the two sides of Nemik and Cassian, who's like now corrupt. And Nemik still has this innocence of like maybe like the thing of like turning someone back to the light side from the dark side. I think he senses that in Cass that he's just a good person who's been corrupted by all the shit that he's gone through in life, and this might even though it will have like a thing like it'll inspire and rebellion for the grander picture, but also it might help this one person that because Nemik also believed in Cassian right away, and he said I totally believe that he believes the cause, and then he was disappointed by it, and it's like that same Luke naive sort of hope that's kept alive in him, that oh no, I might be able to turn you back, and who knows, maybe that's what happens. They won't like mention it as like light versus like we're gonna turn you back to the light side, but like that's what I thought was implied with all that.
Yeah, and definitely, like you're saying, also the theme of him not being able to sleep and maybe finally finding rest
Yeah.
in this episode.
Yes.
I like the little part of him being like, yeah, what was Clem or whatever your name is? I'm sure that's not even it and all that.
Yeah.
Right.
I was like, oh, he's not that naive. But yeah.
In the
Okay.
end, he saved everybody. This mission only happened because of him. MVP.
Dude, that's
right
what's cool about it. MVP. And the best part about it, what I noticed was that they don't just like mention it just like as a line. They actually show us in all the episodes that he's actually doing pretty much most of the things, like the actual intricate knowledge of every single thing without any of that. None of this. They can like try and rebel all they want, but
It comes back
someone needs to
later.
know how to do all this.
But I really like the whole setup of the devices and how his device is analog and can't be messed with and all that stuff.
Yeah.
And they don't really mention it, but later on when they get out and he's using the thing, the reason the TIE fighters are getting destroyed is because they don't have that tech. They're using that type of tech that can get disrupted by the starfield and everything. So yeah, I love it. It's again great foreshadowing, not hitting you over the head with it. Although, well, at the same time, I feel like we all knew he was going to die, but the way that they did it was great. It was unexpected.
It was
It's like
it was brutal, dude. I went like that. I was like, oh, like you could hear the sound. I was like, oh my god.
And they told us that what was going to happen during the heist, and we knew something was going to go wrong, but it still managed to be intriguing, interesting, surprising, and yeah, it was great.
Yeah, I agree. That's the thing about this, where it's like you said that you kind of wanted other things to happen, maybe, and it like did other things. But for me, in terms of like the plot, we predicted all this, where it's like we had the body count, we actually nailed down Tamarind and Nemec being the two, and then maybe someone like so we had it like they followed like a very like textbook structure, which is kind of what Star Wars, like how we discussed in one of the other pods, where original Star Wars was just like a simple story with like really fun, interesting characters in like this cool sci-fi framework.
Yeah,
and that's what this was, where we expected all these things to happen, but we didn't know exactly how they would do it, and it's like done in a way which makes complete sense, where you're not like questioning anything as an audience.
I guess what stuck out to me basically in the entire thing, in the heist, was the communications thing, that they didn't think of it, and the fact that they showed the guy who's a spy inside the base interacting with the guy who was running the radio, meant that they were very much aware of him, but the way it went down, the way he got into the comlings and came down and messed everything up, and they were so surprised by it, it just made it seem a little bit like you have everything thought out, but not this one thing. It seems
And
like an oversight and a bit messy. But in the end, it
yeah,
worked for the tension, and I'm not. That's why I I had some reservations at first, but it didn't like detract from anything. It was more about my rational thinking can't like stop here and be wondering, okay, you thought of everything except this one guy who we already clearly
right,
established you knew about, and at least a mention of it or something. I don't know, would have
right.
taken me less out of the moment. But like I said, in the end, I got over it. That was really the only thing
Right.
where I was like, okay, I wish they had at least addressed it if they
Mm,
were going to go this way.
right.
But it's fine. Still amazing.
Yeah, actually, like the only thing that stuck out to me about that was I was like, wait, how is this happening? He just kind of he just kind of overhears them. It's kind of like, oh, he just kind of got lucky. Where and they kind of talk about that, but him and Skeen talk about luck at the end of it. But it was still kind of like it's such an important part of your plot where it and with the amount of thought they've put into every single detail into everything, they could have very easily just thought of like a very simple reason, but like or like you said, like have like Vel or someone arguing like, hey, how the hell did they get to know? They don't even they just kind of like, oh, they just sort of came down like, yeah, you're right.
And did I hear correctly? He was saying all comms are down except this one,
I think so. I'll have
something
to
like
double
that,
check that.
which also
Yeah,
again seemed like a thing that they would know is kind of obvious if you have someone in the comm tower.
yeah,
And they got rid
right,
of the other people on the comms. Why not that guy?
right.
Where
That's
even at first they're hanging down there and they're like, why haven't we heard from Val? And they're hanging and waiting, and then
yeah,
everybody walks
yeah.
away, and then they act like they could hear that the dude who looks out over the scenery is not looking out over the scenery anymore, even though he didn't say I'm going back to my post, just from his footsteps, which apparently then they show his post isn't even like down or anything. It's literally just you walk in the door and he sits down like a meter away from the door
You
because
see
they're
her
running
run
in.
in the background,
Exactly.
out of focus.
And then yeah, and then again, if even if they didn't know about it, the other guy should have let them know about everything else. They had 5 months. Again, it's dumb. It's very much overthinking it, but like you said, they thought about everything else so well, and everything feels so well written that it just sticks out a little bit.
I actually like this is the first time I normally question all those things, but I was just so like once the heist like in my notes it's like the heist has started and then I
Yeah,
just stopped writing notes. After that I was just like okay, I'm going to stop now and write it. And I just kept going and going and going and it was like oh my god, what's going to happen? Obviously something's going to happen and then it's like this happens and that happens and you're like whoa, whoa, whoa. And it and in their environment everyone just felt so like they were just getting on with the plan, you know, and it was like you were just running along with them, and you're like, when's the scene gonna end? When's this? It just keeps going and going and going, and then it ends like literally at the end of it. We were like, oh my god, like you start like, yeah, you breathe like Luthen does, you know. You're like, oof, that was amazing.
I had that smile on my face where I just like,
Yeah, I know
yes,
exactly. I was just
I
like,
just like,
oh my god,
yes.
like,
I think this is so good. But yeah, let's
yeah.
continue.
Where were we? Let's do it. So we were, oh yeah, so we were in the beginning of them having that conversation, and but this is why that conversation was so important because it all ties with it at the end of it. So
Yeah.
so it's glad I'm glad that we did. So yeah, so next scene we finally meet the commandant, whose wife they mentioned that she needed help like moving furniture. And what's your thought on that? You have a smile on your face.
We'll get to it. We'll get to it. I have a lot of thoughts
Okay,
about
okay,
this
okay.
guy.
I have some thoughts about this guy as well. I thought of some funny things,
Yeah, I
but
think
other
there's.
things maybe not the same things.
I feel like there's one thing that we're at least going to agree upon.
All
But
right.
continue.
Okay. Let's do it. All right. So he's basically talking to the engineer that we've been hearing so much about, who's gonna come and decide what's gonna happen with this whole thing, and they're gonna drive out all the Donnies. And he's sort of explaining to them how they keep the Donnies at bay. It's like through not really like pushing them out, but like just tricking them in a way, like scamming them. And then he's just talking about what he's gonna do later. He's like, oh, but there's no profit in that. And then we see Lieutenant Gorn serving them drinks and just sort of standing in the back, and they're just being racist. And yeah, that's the scene.
I really like getting these insights into the philosophy of the Empire and how they work and how they're taking over the galaxy. Always cool to see. Just like, yeah.
I agree.
And again, the look of everybody, great. Like, they just look like these. They look like someone you would hire to be in a movie in the 70s, not nowadays.
Yeah.
Also, last week we were talking about the pens, and you were wondering if they're for the rank. And this time I kept an eye on it. Everybody definitely has their rank is on their chest, and that is just what everybody has. So everybody just needs 2 magic pens for some reason. Telling you, secret
maybe it's
graffiti
like
wars.
maybe it's what's the corporate policy? Maybe it's corporate policy.
Yeah, minimum 2 pens and
Minimum
8
2
colors.
There you go. Well, I think they just need black or something, black and white. I think.
I still like. I think they're for marking their territory. They're graffiti artists. Those are the Star Wars, the Street Wars.
Imperial was here.
Yeah, exactly. The Empire was here.
The Empire scratches back.
Exactly. That's the real fight against the Republic, the rebellion.
You scratch it on like the little ships of the rebels.
Yeah.
Right. Right. But so for me, first of all, I really enjoyed the stuff that he was saying. But for some reason, having this guy and like the way he played the character Commandant, I honestly immediately just started picturing him as a South Park character. And it reminded me of, I don't know if you remember that episode of Crack Baby Athletics where Cartman dresses up as like a full slave owner, and he goes to, and he's like, student athletes. And it immediately, and I couldn't, because I was like, they have these really well layered characters who are not like one dimensional in that sense, right? I mean, it obviously overall, like later on, I was like, okay, this character makes total sense. But in the beginning, I was just like, why are they becoming so cliched all of a sudden? And so like, this is like the worst, like a comical stereotype of what. And then the funniest thing after that was that he's speaking to like, he didn't look, he was white, but I guess he was talking with the engineer. And then you have Lieutenant Gorns literally serving them drinks, which I'm like, dude, you were like pretty good with all your social commentary and everything. I was like, why are you making this so on the nose? It's like Lieutenant Gorn standing in the back. I don't know.
There's going to be 2 other points. I'm not going to spoil now, but they very much fall into that same category, and I was very disappointed.
Okay. All right. Like something that happens later on?
Yeah. That falls into that same of, you just went for the cliche and stereotype, and we're not self-aware at all.
Oh, okay. All right. We'll get into that. But yeah, so we also we get our first look at the Donnies as well, with led by Bryan Cranston, looking like Moses. He didn't look like Bryan Cranston?
The dude with the beard?
Dude, that's the first thing. The main guy.
I didn't notice. I was trying to figure out what ethnicity is from, because the ethnicity of this whole tribe was very strange. Some look like straight up Tibetan, and then some look like hippie white women. Where just like, what the fuck? Like,
and then there was like straight up black guys who looked like they were wearing Timberlands. I swear to God, he gave Skeen a dirty look, or one of the Imperials while they were walking. I saw that thing look so clear. Like, he gave that look where you see like thugs like give it to cops, you know. It was the
I didn't
exact same.
notice
I was
that.
like, what is? I was like, does he have like Timberlands on, or like he's got like a jacket on? Like, what's going on? But I was like, I came around to the rebel diversity, as you said. You were okay with it. It felt comical to me in the beginning, but like over time, I was like, you know what, this is pretty cool. Like, we've been in international communities. This
Yeah.
is sort of how the groups form. Like, it would actually, yeah.
It
But
stuck out
so
more
that's
just
why I
because
gave it
they're
a
like
pass in this.
it's the Donnies. You know, they make it seem like
Yeah,
this
it's
tribe
ancient,
of like people that are like from
right?
this planet. They're not just a
They would look
community of people
they
that
would
got
look like me.
together. How did
It's not like
the
Goa.
old Tibetan lady make that white woman? I want to know that backstory.
I guess they were all just like, well, it's Star Wars. That's
Yeah,
their excuse.
I guess, but they really didn't have to go like so. I don't know. I guess I've been to Goa and places like that where you can find people like this. So I was just like, oh, what are they
I
doing
don't.
here? Anyways,
But those are the people that Vel was talking about when Clem was asking her in the like when they first met. Is like, who are you disguised as? And she's like, shepherds, nature lovers. And you even mentioned that like she's clearly talking about hippies.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Maybe Donnie is just another word for hippie.
yeah, exactly. At first, I thought Danis was just like the Imperials, like late racist slur. I thought maybe they're called Aldanis, but then they are called Danis.
Yeah.
So yeah, and then we see like what's his name, the commandant, just kind of like being like sort of like a dick boss to Lieutenant Gorn. He's like, remember, I want perfect ringing in your ears. So we see sort of like Lieutenant Gorn's hatred, and we see his like we understand his side of the story a lot more. And yeah, now so we get onto the next scene where you have the rebels checking their comms. They're trying to get it checked with Vel and Cinta, who separated at the end of last episode. And yeah, it's what's his name? Nemec is, so this is one of those small little scenes where Nemec is again guiding Tamarin how to use the comms, and do this, do that, do this, do that. So you know that you've seen it, So when someone says at the end of it, we couldn't have been here without him, because you've seen that happen in so many other things. Where it's like, why? Like he just seemed like some other side character, but in this they've shown how important he's been to the actual stuff about it. Yeah,
Yeah.
and then comes the big revelation where Tamarind is just sort of ordering everyone around, and then Clem's like, oh, he's telling Steve, oh, he likes ordering people, doesn't he? And Steve goes, well, it makes sense, doesn't it? Used to be a stormtrooper. And honestly, for some reason, I went, oh, I was like, oh shit! Like I was like, oh, I don't know why, but it was just like
That's
it's
what
just
Andor's
slid in
reaction
there.
was.
Yeah, I was like, oh my god! I was like, what?
Good
I was like,
review.
I don't even care about any of this, but I was like, wow, like just the way they did it. It wasn't like a dun dun dun, but it was also not like, oh yeah, I used to be a stormtrooper. It was like, oh, it makes sense, and you're like, oh shit. And then the reveal that he's like, oh, you should have been here when Cinta found out. They slaughtered her entire family, and you're like, oh my goodness. You're like, you get Cinta now as well. I like Cinta a lot more, just because her backstory, you get to know her better now.
Stuck out a little bit to me that the last time I thought of us getting to know a stormtrooper was Finn, and
Yeah, I know. I
Tamarin
that too.
being African American as well. Interesting,
Right.
but yeah,
It's the social commentary became a little on the nose in this episode. If you trying to, it was also, but I in the beginning I actually wrote in my notes, I love the way they've done it in a way that, like, I don't care whether you do it or not, but it's more so like if the story or the characters are not about that, then you have to like slide it in so perfectly where otherwise it starts sticking out so much and it starts becoming like virtue signaling, where it's like, don't do it then. So it's almost like a lesson for other people who want to like integrate social commentary and racism and gay rights and all those things, where you have to do it in a way where it doesn't define the characters and it's not at the expense of the story. and it's just part of the world. It just exists. It's not like a big revelation or something.
We were talking in the other episodes about who we think Andor's father is, and with the backstory of him. And after this episode, I almost hope that we're not right, because I don't think they would be able to handle that well enough after what I saw this episode.
Mm.
But yeah.
Oh
get there.
yeah, dude. Right about that. And so yeah, and then we see our first meteor, and we get Lieutenant Gorn welcoming the Dani, and they speak Dani to each other. There's a nice little like witty banter between them, I guess.
Very dope design to that star. The sound, and at first you think it's almost like a ship flying by or something. Very very cool. Like very cool
Yes.
start to what's about to come. Yeah. And yeah.
And yeah, in terms of a story as well, like you said, like it's almost like you don't just see everything all at once. You as an audience, you start. It's almost like the start of that wood clanking,
Yep.
where it's like ting ting, and it just grows and becomes bigger and bigger and bigger and bigger, and you're waiting for that whole thing. Like, oh, wait until it stops. We're like, you're gonna go through this entire thing, and then we're gonna see what the fuck happens. And yeah,
Generally the
it
use
builds
of
so much tension, little by little, like.
Yeah, the use of the music and the sounds and everything, amazing so far. Always keeps the tension so high. This time when the Dani start chanting while the heist is going on, again, adds so much tension to everything.
Reminded me of Midsummer.
I still haven't
The
watched
movie.
that. It's on my list.
Oh,
Yeah.
dude, yeah, that. Oh yeah, you'll see the Danis in a very different light after watching Midsummer. Trust me.
Okay.
Because they do stuff like that, but it's just
I'm making
Off
my
the
head
rails.
canon that it's just the Danis. Somebody
yeah,
spending a
exactly.
day with the
That'll
Danis.
actually be hilarious now to watch Midsummer for the first time. I think they're Danis. That would be amazing. I wanna know what your reaction will be after that. All right.
Uh,
So now we yeah, sorry, you were gonna say that?
No, I just was going to say I'll let you know after I watch it what I think.
Yeah, that'll be. We'll put it on the pod as a bonus. We'll get it on the thing. There's two versions to it, by the way. If you want to watch it, there's the director's cut,
Okay.
which is like half an hour longer. So it's like 3 hours.
Okay.
I would suggest just watching that, because there is just more character stuff in there, but it makes a lot more sense.
Okay.
It's directed by the guy who made Hereditary,
I know.
which is one of my favorite horror movies. All right, let's go. So yeah, and then we see the rebels are getting in position as the soldiers welcoming the Danis. They're coming there, and then we finally see Vel and Cinta, and they're hiding like beneath a rock. And did you notice any kind of sexism, social commentary in the scene?
No.
It's very subtle.
What was it?
That's amazing. That's the best part. So this is the first scene of just the two ladies together,
Yeah.
and you hear Imperials coming, and you sort of get the idea that they're not supposed to be here. So there's like this tension built where it's like, oh my god, are they gonna find Vel and Cinta? And is this how the plan's gonna swerve? And then you see them just pissing, right? And they're like, oh, okay, we don't have to do anything. So I rewound the thing, and I overheard the dialogue, and I checked the subtitles, and they're just being crass about talking about a girl, right?
Oh.
They're just like, I got a good look at her, and trust me, patience is not what came to my mind. I was like, oh, okay. And like I immediately just saw it as like just the two girls alone hiding from these drunk people who would, if you compare that to the bar scene of She-Hulk, they're like worlds apart, but they kind of tell you the same message without actually telling it to you.
Yeah, I was focused on something completely different, because the
Okay.
guy comes and stands in front of a rock, but then faces the other way and starts pissing in the wind
Right.
in the Scottish fucking Highlands. And he's at a rock, but why is he pissing the other way? Which was very strange to me.
And-
Like that
And why would he come up all the way? Like,
right? And
It's just empty ground.
and it looked like he was pissing in the direction that he came from too. Like whoever he
Exactly.
was
Turn
talking
around.
to is probably standing there just looking at his dick flap around in the wind. And also, I feel like this is the first time. Again, the show is full of firsts in Star Wars, but I think it's the first person pissing in Star Wars. Like we never knew how they got rid of their drinks. Now we know pissing canon in Star Wars.
Is it? Is it the first time?
I think so. From what I looked up, it seemed like it.
Oh, you looked it up?
Yeah, because I was like, have people pissed in Star Wars before?
Oh my god, dude.
Yeah,
Did
it's
any
big.
other kind of search results come up? Like
Yeah,
Star Wars piss porn
from
or
what I
something?
saw, there was mention of this being the first time someone pissed in Star Wars. So I was like, I was right.
Wow.
Because it
That's
sticks
kinda
out.
cool.
It's like the sex and stuff. You're just like, wait a second. This thing, it's been around for 50 years, you know? Like, when someone mentions something like that, it sticks out, kind of. I thought it was
That's
interesting.
funny.
They're claiming their flags, you know? These are all things when in 20, 30 years from now, people are going to ask, where was the first piss taken in Star Wars? It'll be an Andor.
It was in this. That's pretty good. They've planted a bunch of flags in that manner. Like,
Exactly.
pretty. I'm glad you noticed and looked that up. I want to know if any other kind of search results came up. If you search for like what first piss in Star Wars, is that what you searched for?
I think it was has someone pissed in Star Wars before.
No, I want to know what results you got with the safe search off.
Rule 34.
First piss in Star Wars. Go Google that, guys, and then tell us what you get. I'm not going to do that.
Leave in the comments what you find.
Leave it in the comments, yeah.
But don't be too direct. Speak in code. Otherwise, YouTube is going to delete it and we can't read it.
Yeah, exactly. We our entire pod will get canceled just because of that.
No, I think we'll be fine, but we want to read it also, and I feel like YouTube might flag that.
Oh yeah, that's true. Oh yeah. Star Wars piss porn. We can't have. All right. So yeah, but yeah, man, that was a nice little tense moment, and I made a note of that, like being like that tiny little moment, that tiny little scene had more tension in it than the entirety of Rogue One. Like it for some reason, I was just like pew pew pew, laser blast coming out of my fingers. Now,
shots fired.
It's another thing you're validated on that you questioned early on. I immediately thought of you because I don't even notice those things. I'm like, oh wow, but then because you questioned it, I was like, hey, it's actual laser blasts.
And they did something else which I'll bring up later with another blaster, which I find cool. They did a bunch of things with skiing in this episode. They were generally really cool. I'll keep mentioning it as we get along.
Okay. But so we now get back to, now there's a lot of what's it called, scenes like sort of interchanging each other quickly. So I'm just gonna mention like the main things, what's happening, and we'll talk more, and we'll just talk about it. And we see Lieutenant Gorn getting his troops in. Oh no, we saw that tense scene. Oh, so now we see what's his name, our commandant in his room getting ready. I love this scene. I love moments like this where you get to see them what they're like in their family, and I love that they made him such a dick to everyone. Where I'm like, okay, now this character is working for me. Now he's no more like his wife would be like,
with him, his belt not fitting and everything.
That
maybe you've grown
and
bigger.
the funniest thing, yeah, maybe you've expanded.
Yeah. Do you want to know you want to hear my note for this episode, for this particular scene?
Yeah.
Here's exactly what I wrote. Even in space, the Asian dad doesn't understand his son and threatens to hit him.
Yeah, dude, what the hell?
Because what the fuck? He's just like, you always just sick. You always just like, what the fuck? Why you always just say like, oh, Rudy? It's just like, calm down. Why does it have to be the brown
what's
guy?
Wrong with you?
And then he's just like, yeah, you get the back of my hand.
Dude, I didn't even notice he was brown. I saw him as a white guy.
Nah, bro, he's brown, dude.
Dude, he's white.
He's brown, bro. He has white hair.
His wife is super white. His son is super white.
He's brown, dude.
I
He
saw him.
looks like he looks to me like an
He
Asian
looks
dad.
like a brown uncle. He looks
Yeah,
like a brown uncle. The
exactly.
moment now you mentioned it, now I can't see him. Now I feel like my entire South Park character doesn't match because now he feels like a brown British uncle because we all
That's what
have
I saw.
those. We all have British uncles somehow. They
Telling
all
you.
look like that and they all talk like that.
And
You're
the
right.
way he talked
Oh
to
my
his
god.
son, that was
Yes,
totally
yes.
the
He's like, you're
Asian
gonna.
dad.
He's gonna see. He said,
If
"You're
you,
gonna see the back." He's gonna see the back of my hand.
yeah, you
That's what
get
he
sick
said.
again, I'll fucking beat you. I'll beat the sickness out of you. It's like I was
You're
like, I don't
right.
know
Oh
what to
my
do,
god.
Dad. I'm just sick. What the fuck? I can't do anything about it.
Oh my god.
But that's why I was like,
Uh,
that's so on the nose, you know? Like, why did the brown guy have to be
right.
the typical Asian dad already? Like, we're in space. Even in space, he kind of prove and understand. Come on,
Well, they've all got their roots like embedded into them.
I guess. But yeah, that took me out of it
I
again.
love I love that last episode. Cyril got me this like super hyped up, and now this episode, this Commandant is giving you like the same kind of reaction. Where
I
you're
was
just
telling you,
like, "What's going on? What is happening? Why is this happening?"
I was telling you, he's keeping Sarah's spirit alive. You know, that's why his
Yeah,
suit is a little different.
that's true. Oh, and it's pronounced Cyril. I noticed
Cyril.
that his mom kept calling him Cyril.
Cyril. All right.
Okay. Even though it's spelled Cyril. All right. But yeah, so we get to see, and he's like, "Hey, just come on, you just gotta, you just gotta come on, and the engineer is the one who's gonna help us get out of here." Because he's like, "You sure do whine a lot." Like, dude, chill, man. Like,
Also, this was a little like playing with the audience because had they not come, they wouldn't have leverage. Wouldn't have had leverage. So
yeah.
the kid was like, "I'm sick," and he made sure that they showed up.
Oh, that's true. Oh yeah, that's true. I didn't think of that.
Mm-hmm.
That it's actually his fault.
They're already starting to
It's
play
actually the
with the
commandant's
tension.
fault.
You know, it could have all gone wrong in the
Mm,
morning before they even got there.
right. I didn't think of that. You're smart, man.
Thank you.
Thank you.
It just
Subscribe to our podcast, please. All right. So now we see Lieutenant Gorn meet up with the Donnie, and now is the nice little clever banter between them, and he says, "Let him pass," and we see our rebels sort of make eye contact with the other soldiers, and they're sort of like they're looking at him funny, and then we get to a really cool scene, or at least the setup of a really cool scene, where we see Cinta and Vel in the scuba outfits, and I was like, "Whoa, what's gonna happen now?" This is getting into Mission Impossible territory. Like I was like, wow, this looks really cool.
So that was the scene where they're walking in, right? And you see the different squads coming together.
Yeah. And,
So I had
and after that is the scuba scene. Like not.
So
the scuba
I had a
ones.
couple of thoughts there. First of all,
Okay.
it was I had this moment where I was thinking this must have been so weird to shoot because it's so like new to Star Wars, and they're literally just sitting in Scotland and they're wearing Star Wars stuff, and it doesn't even look like Star Wars. Besides what they're wearing, and the officials, especially when then the Adanis come in, and you're just like, oh, okay, this is kind of dope. And then just as I was thinking that, they cut to the underwater shot, and my thought was just like, yo, that's dope. Holy shit,
That's
that shot is
amazing.
so dope.
Dude,
Like that
exactly what I
validates
wrote.
them doing the thing where, you know what, it's awesome that it looks like they're literally just standing in Scotland in Star Wars outfits. Like that, between that and a fan film, you know, like anybody can do that. Anybody can buy that uniform, go to Scotland and shoot this, and it'll look like the show, which is kind of cool actually. But then, yeah, that scuba shot totally validated it all. Where we're just like, that's such a dope shot. What a cool cut too.
That was amazing.
And the right time it came, it hit. Then we see our squad walking as a unit, correct?
No, so the scuba scene that you're talking about comes 2 minutes later. It's first it's the troops coming together.
So with the troops
Lieutenant
coming
Gorn,
together,
greets the Bryan Cranston, and then the troops come together, and then we get to the scuba scene.
So with the troops coming together, what really stuck out to me was, first of all, with our squad, the guns were all facing inwards, not just even the front. They didn't take
Yes.
Andor's advice after They said they would, and they were going to switch. They didn't switch. And even Andor himself didn't have his gun outside. Everybody had them facing inwards. So what was the point of that? Did Andor actually not know? Did it not matter? Why didn't make such a big point out of that? And then the other squad walks in and all their guns are facing to the left, meaning
Yes.
whatever Andor was saying was actually not correct anyways. So that I was just like, what was going on with that? Like, why did we do so much exposition about these stupid guns and what way they're supposed to face and them following Andor's advice, and then they didn't do anything about it?
No. So they actually have the guys have their guns facing the way Andor suggested it. Like
No,
inwards.
he was suggesting to face them out. He was saying where
So I was confused with that too.
where Tamrin is and the other guy, Termin. Oh, they were supposed to switch, and they're still in the same position as they were before. He's still front left, facing with his gun facing inwards.
Yeah, I was actually confused with that scene. I actually thought that maybe I didn't like understand where the guns were facing or what Clem was saying, but
we talked about it for
I
like
think
20
Clem was
minutes
just saying that but my point is like I thought that Clem suggested that they should all have their guns facing inward.
Mm-hmm. And he was saying they're facing inward, they should be facing out. He's like, you're right-handed, so you should be on the right side.
Yeah. But even in their rehearsal, they were just doing that, and they're like, okay.
No, but we never saw because we never saw them changing it.
Yeah.
And then they didn't change it, and then the other squad wasn't doing it either. They didn't even do it both inwards. They all
have them to the left.
Yeah, exactly. They're doing something completely different. Where it's just like, what is going on? Was it really just to let us know that Andor didn't actually know, and then maybe it felt like something was missing.
Right.
You know,
and also with your other point about that whole thing of like, how did these other guys don't know that? How is it only Andor who knows this information about where the guns are facing?
Yeah, it's something you should be seeing. These guys seem to be marching all over the place.
Exactly. You're right. Yeah.
Like I said, it's just another small thing that kind of just took me out of it. Where just you as the show made a point out of this, and you as a show ignored it. So it's you as a show. It's your fault that I'm sitting here looking at it and caring about it.
And it was a very important point too they made. It wasn't just like a small little thing. It was like them like trusting Clem and making us see that his eye for detail is crazy about seeing who shoots who, and he favors right but he shoots left, all that stuff. Yeah, it was a very important moment.
Mm-hmm.
I guess.
I guess not. I don't know.
I guess not. I guess not.
Very strange.
I guess not. Yeah. But yeah, you're right. So yeah, we get to our next next shot. First of all, we see that them looking through those binoculars that we've seen earlier in one of the, I think in Return of the Jedi we saw that. I think that was the beginning of like when Luke is in that snow monster.
I don't think so.
Yeah. All right. And then it's like, and Vel's like, get ready, I hear 2 more coming. So it's like it starts with 1, and then like 5 minutes later it's like 2 more coming. It's like, oh shit. Like we know, like we're like, okay, it's building up. Something's about to go down. We're getting ready. Like I'm getting hyped. And even though I am already hyped, but they just keep getting it more and more and more. And yeah, we see the meteors flying by. Donnie's getting into position. Nemec's like, yo, check that out. He's like, yo, you were right. I'm not tired at all. I'm like super going on adrenaline, you know? And we're like, oh, poor Nemec. We know what's going to happen to you. This is very on the nose foreshadowing where
they tried too hard at that point. By that scene, I was like, okay, calm down. I was okay with you giving me one episode, one scene at the beginning to remind us that we've been setting this up for 2 episodes.
Yes.
That one felt like, okay, we get it.
It's like the way they've shown facial expressions and how they've used it so much to portray emotions. They could have very easily just done that where you just see him excited and you're like, oh, see, he's not tired. They had to be like, hey man, Clem, you were right. Remember what we talked about earlier? You were totally right about that. I'm bringing it back for the
And
audience, maybe
and
in
they're
case
in
they
the middle
forgot.
of a mission, marching in between everybody. So much so that
Yeah,
the guy has
he's
to
like,
be like,
oh,
"Step in line, shut up back there."
but yeah, Tamarind had to reprimand them. He's like, tighten up.
Yeah.
It's the same shit happens to him that happens to him in the Matrix.
Is that where they line up? No, not yet. Not yet.
I'm
Not yet.
saying,
No, sorry. Yeah. What's the next scene?
Oh, okay. So next we have where we at? Yeah, Lieutenant Gorn. He gets him into position, and then we get to
Oh, is
Bell
this
now.
where Gorn separates the people? Like he says, like,
Yes.
squad 1, 2, 4, you stay here. 3, come with me.
That's yes.
There's
Yes,
a
that's
moment
exactly
where
right.
Skeen bumps into Tamarin when they like get in line, and you see his gun, and it's bumping into Tamarin. Where I wonder if that was left in on purpose. Maybe it's a nod to the stormtrooper hitting his head. Maybe it's a foreshadowing that Skeen is, trying to get rid of these guys. I don't know. I thought it was very kind of an interesting choice. That like he's very obviously, I don't know if you're seeing it, but he very obviously bumps into them. We will work on getting more media into the show slowly as we evolve. Next time we will start showing some pictures and videos. We'll work on that.
Well, what we are exactly talking about.
But yeah, there's a moment basically, just when they line up.
Okay.
Yeah, I thought that was kind of interesting.
I didn't notice that. Oh man.
Very Star Wars again,
and
as much as referencing Indiana Jones. So very cool. If it's a reference to the Foyt. Again, it might not be, but if you take it as like the stormtrooper hitting his head and paying homage, I don't know. It's so little. I mean, it's probably nothing.
It could be.
They probably didn't. They probably just didn't notice. Who knows?
I think it could be. I think they've done enough like deliberate references, like Easter eggs that you pointed out earlier. So yeah, so I think they're very aware of and very knowledgeable. Yeah, exactly.
It seems like they know what they're doing until they start talking about where the gun needs to be facing.
I'm gonna look into that again. I'm gonna check back. I'll go back and we'll review this again in the next part. We'll mention it. I'm gonna do a deep dive into everything.
Please do. I'm very curious. If you can, if you can make this.
Now I'm very Because if it's not, then that's a huge plot hole or whatever. What mistake? I guess.
Not like it's a mistake. Not like a plot hole, because in the end it didn't matter since the other squad didn't do it either.
But that's I guess it's a huge mistake. Whichever, yeah. Okay. So now we see the scuba scene. So the earlier we just saw Velen thing in the scuba outfit looking through the thing. Then we see Lieutenant Gorn getting everyone in position, and then now we see immediately we just see an underwater thing, and we see the meteor go by over them. I was like, wow, that's amazing, dude. That shot was so cool, where you just see them thing, and it kind of reminded me of Jaws. Speaking of references, and then you see that little thing, and then you see it from the back where there's like pillars, and I was like, is this like an underground like drowned civilization that they're going through? And I was like, wow, man, that was amazing.
Amazing shot.
I was like, this is straight like Mission Impossible, and I was just like, wow, we're in it, But it's just like a darker version of Mission Impossible. It's like a more thing. And now we get to Lieutenant Gorn getting the skins for the ceremony, the greeting ceremony to Commandant. His name is Jay Hold, by the way, if anybody's curious. Jayhold.
You're telling me that's not a brown guy?
Jay
called Jay?
Like Jay. Oh, Jay. They just call me Jay, Commandant Jay. I have a lot of friends named Jay too. Jay.
Telling you, brown guy.
Yeah, he could be brown. You're right. And his wife's name is Roboda.
Roboda.
I was like, what? I started thinking of that song, like Domo arigato, Mr. Roboto.
No.
Yeah. So he's sort of they're now leaving. He's with the engineer, and he's talking about, oh my god, we have to do this. They're just being super terrible racist dicks, basically. And yeah, so
And
they're like
he's
this.
like,
Then
he's
this
like, this
is
thing smells the fur and stuff.
yeah, and he's like, don't worry, it's only tonight, and then we'll be done with the stench, you know. And oh, actually, now that I think about it, that was another racist thing. That speaking of stench, what's his name? Colonel Kimchi. The scene where he's just looking out the window and he's talking to Lieutenant Gorn. That's what he says. He's like, "Oh, close enough to smell them, right?" And so that's a cool little continuous way of showing their racism, I guess.
Or letting us know that they smell like hippies. Trying to give us all the senses. Let us
Oh
really
my god.
picture and imagine what it's like to be around them.
Those dirty hippies.
So we can smell Bryan Cranston in that beard.
Oh god, why do you guys smell so bad? Just take a shower, guys. Trim some of that armpit hair. Come on. All your sweat's getting locked in it. Oh Lord. All right. Now we see that little scene of Vel and Cinta waiting for Colonel Kimchi to get back in his thing, so she can run across the thing. Is that the scene you had a problem with?
No, I don't think so. Wait, you're talking about when they're waiting for the guy to go away and they're wondering why aren't they on the comms?
Yeah. Yes.
Ah,
No. Yeah. Like Kimchi is just like
they're hanging on the
there's
wall.
like troops running.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, yeah. My point was just at first it took me a bit out of it because they're waiting there, waiting for them, but I guess in the end it makes sense in the sense that they were waiting for them to stop talking. But the way they moved, they were just like, how do you know the guy isn't just standing there looking out over the view? Again, just an oversight that like something that should have been told to them about this guy and his routine. Because it seems like
Right.
something he's just does, you know. Anyways, but in the end, I didn't care. I was like, whatever. It's more what he does later that annoyed me more than this part.
I think like Lieutenant Gorn could have like had a line where he's telling Vel, "Hey, come on, make sure you do this when Colonel Kimchi is done with his thing." Because now we've met Colonel Kimchi earlier, and I actually made a note of that where I was like normally in shows, movies where they're showing this kind of stuff, a side character like Colonel Kimchi, it would just be shown to us during the heist, but we sort of know him. We get one scene, and that's all we need. Where we now, when this thing happens, we're like, oh my god, it's Colonel Kimchi. You know, we have that sort of information in our head where now that we think, now that we see him do this stuff, I don't know, it just makes me a little more invested in everything somehow, like subconsciously, I think, you know, yeah.
And yeah, it doesn't matter.
You know.
It could have also just meant they got lucky.
Yeah, because they do talk about luck. So that was a theme I actually wanted to bring up, where it's like how much of it is you planning versus luck. Things not going according to schedule, as we discussed last week on our show last week. All right, yeah. And now we see what's his name? Commandant meeting the 4 rebels, and they do the welcome ceremony where they hand each other the skins. And he said, "Oh, Commandant's like, I like the line of like, tell them they'll be having our gift of absence." Like, I wish I could tell other people in my life that. just give me the gift of your absence, please. Just in the most polite manner, you can just tell someone to go away.
Yeah, it was nice. And he translates it wrong, and afterwards,
yes,
the chief kind of just get out of my way, and just burns it immediately. Like, ah.
I made a note of that too, where the chief literally just straight up throws it in the bonfire, and he's like, ah!
You could feel it. He's like,
yeah. They think we're savages. Here we go. Let's act like it. Oh my god, yeah. And also the small little funny thing of like where the chief tells Lieutenant Gorn something, and Lieutenant Gorn tells Commandant something, and then the chief looks at him funny. He's like, "Wait, that's not what I said."
Yeah, I know.
Where
I
he
like that too.
translated it
Like you could
differently. Yeah,
tell, and he's just kind of
yeah.
what the okay, anyways.
He's like, "Dude, that's not what I said.
Yeah.
Don't I speak English, man." We're not that savage.
Yeah, I think they're trying to show how
Yeah.
naive the commandant is, right? How
Yes,
much
yeah,
Jadis
yeah,
doesn't
yeah.
understand.
Yes. It was a funny, uh, that's what I like about this thing. I mentioned this like way earlier once, that it has these nice levity moments in it, but it's not like out of place jokes where you're like,
Yeah.
oh my God, it's getting too dark, it's getting too depressing, we need to add some humor in it. The humor is just integrated into everything, like perfect, you can't even tell where you have just these funny moments that happen even in serious, when you have serious moments in real life, like random funny things just happen that can make you chuckle without really taking the seriousness and the tension away from the scene.
And it's such a small thing; it just makes it more human
Yes.
again, more relatable.
Exactly.
But
It's like
all
that
the guy
Moss
has to be
putting
just
his
like
hand up.
yeah,
Yeah.
exactly.
The cliche funny thing would have been where Lieutenant Gorn's the only one who knows that he did a switcheroo, but seeing Bryan Cranston look at him like make a face like, hey, that's not what I said, and you're like, it's like, Cameron, I get that reference.
Mhm.
It's a nice little thing, and you move on with your scene, and you get back to tension, and you're like, okay, we're so hyped up in tension. This one little thing, just for 1 second, you just breathe, and you're like, huh. You chuckle, and now you're back to Vel jumping up, attaching the thing, and you see her running in the background. So it's a very like tense moment now,
Yeah.
where I like that scene where you see it like out of focus, where she's just running in the back, like trying
He's
to
like,
hide. Yeah, it's just like, it's
it's
like, oh my God,
best they could do. Okay, fine.
yeah.
All the guy needs to
After
do is
5 months of planning,
all that kimchi needs to do is this.
that's like, it's not
He'd be
even
like-
part of his routine.
No, but like
If he
the
just did
fact
it,
that
hey,
his
what's
window,
that?
yeah, the window, like his door is wide open. He literally just needs to look to his left, and it's like they're right there, like out in the open. It's like okay, I
It
guess
looked like a cartoon.
5 months. I'm just gonna keep saying 5 months. That's the best you can think of.
Oh my God.
Think you needed another month.
I don't like, and especially with Lieutenant Gorn on the inside making the rounds, he could have very easily been like, "Hey, kimchi sits like this,
Yeah.
and this opening is right here. So make sure you figure out a plan where you maybe where you hike up on your rope on like the third pillar instead of
Yeah.
the first pillar, so
Yeah.
you don't have to run like a cartoon character trying to hide from like a monster."
It's the same thing as with the guns, where why have the scene with kimchi
Right.
and have us think about that when you're not
Right.
going to do anything with that. It was now that scene has become less like it almost became pointless. Besides the exposition they
Right.
gave us about the people, the fact that he met him has become pointless because it didn't do anything. The same as last time, the guns facing a certain way has become pointless. That's why, yeah, I don't know.
I agree.
These were like the little things I was like. hitting
I
my head
hate the
against.
fact that we're finding faults because I started with an 11.5 rating. And now I think I was just like off like this high, like where I was just like, the episode, the way it ends, I'm just like you're hyped so
See-
hard where you're like, oh my God, it was amazing. Everything bad about it, I'm gonna forget. Like my brain's not even gonna try and register any of it because
No,
I
but
don't want
that's
to
the thing.
remember any of it.
All the things you mentioned, none of it detracted from it. Like it was just
Exactly.
things that stuck out.
That's the yeah.
Like everything is just, it's like the ship of Mothra in the first episode where she shows up, episode 4.
Mothma.
When Mothra is in the ship and we were so like, holy shit, this sticks out so much because everything else is so perfect. Why is this ship designed and animated this way? You know? And the same way these things just stand out because everything else is so good that whenever the show does something like this, you're kind of just like, oh man,
Yeah.
I thought you had this in the pocket.
You had me. You had me at 11.5. I'm back to a 10 now. This episode sucks.
Yeah,
No, but
goddamn
you're right. It's because everything else is so great that it's almost disappointing to have something that
Yeah.
you feel like it's like finding faults in like Superman in a way where you're like, Superman, I thought you were Superman, but why are you so like dark and gloomy like Batman all of a sudden? Like, what the
Yeah.
hell happened? But yeah. I love Man of Steel, by the way. You guys can deter me from that. It's the same way how I love this episode, where it's like I'm not going to focus on any of the bad parts. Yeah, I'm back to being an 11.5. But yeah, so now we get a really cool moment of where everybody's waiting on Vel to confirm, and I don't know if you know the phrase. The phrase popped up in my head right away when I saw her, where Cinta's like, "Hey, you're stalling," and she's just asking questions. And the phrase that popped up in my mind was, "Hey, look, there's our fearless leader." Have you ever heard of that phrase, our fearless leader?
Yeah.
Where it was so ironic that she, out of everyone, was the only one who was actually really scared. And I was like, oh, that's actually kind of cool that they made her so human. Where it would have worked normally, but her being the leader and being the only one that actually before, like, I don't know how things are going to turn out. The moment I say go, it's like shit's on. That's the stuff that's made the show for me. These cool little like moments,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah. Totally.
All right.
Oh.
So yeah. So we see. Also, we
Our,
we
our
get to know
intro.
that. Oh, sorry. Yeah.
I just want to mention real quick for the viewers that I was just fixing your frame a little bit, and that's our
Oh,
intro started playing in the background a little bit.
oh, okay.
Oh, we're doing it live. Stuff happens.
Are we good?
Yeah, no, we've been good. I just wanted to let people
Oh,
know what
okay.
that
Oh,
was
okay.
in case they saw it.
Oh, okay. Okay. All right.
Our listeners
So
won't
yeah.
know what
So
just happened.
yes. This is terrible podcasting, by the way. Sorry, guys.
No.
But we're learning. We're only on episode 6.
Yeah, exactly.
Yes. So yeah. We now see them, and then she find. Also, I think this is the moment where we get to know that I guess Cinta and Vel are lovers or in a relationship, or they at least have a intimate relationship. I don't know what they
Yeah.
are, but
Well, they full on.
it's what we alluded to earlier.
Exactly. That's what was hinted. They alluded to.
All right, that's true. Well, we theorized because
Yeah.
they didn't make it completely clear whether she's jealous
Yeah.
of Clem or Cinta. But I was
Yeah.
like, oh, well, maybe she's gay, and it would be kind of cool because they don't really beat you over the head with it. It's just like, oh, they're gay. Okay, cool.
Even now, where if you really don't think about it too much, it could also just been like, I hope you make it. But I think it's very much implied that they're
Yes, especially later on
intimate.
in a scene later on. Yeah, and also the one scene that I remembered from the previous episode. Not knowing this information now is when they all find out that Clem was a mercenary, and at the end, Tamarind asks Cinta. He's like, Cinta, and Cinta looks at Vel and she's like, nope, she didn't tell me either. And I was like, okay, like, why are you so important? It's like, oh, okay, she betrayed your trust as well. And it's like she's making like executive decisions as a leader, Okay, all right, like, all right. And then, like, now that scene makes a lot more sense. So yeah. Also, all these scenes that we've described have been happening like interchangeably. So them with the ceremony and her running and all those things, and everybody like the rebels asking like Echo One, are you in? Are you in? Blah blah stuff. And now she says, okay, we're in, go, and they go. They jump off that dam with the Mission Impossible ropes. I don't know what they're called. That's what that's how I know them.
Yeah, I really
They
like
jumped
that
off the dam.
moment with like you said, the fear and
Mm.
them waiting for it. Yeah, it was very cool.
Very very tense.
Yeah.
And yeah, even and the thing where it's like this entire heist scene has already begun, and we know like it's the same, almost the same kind of structure of the wood flanking scene, where it's like the tension has began the overall tension, but then there's like these tense moments within the overall tension,
Yeah.
which is like there's a small little tense moment and then it's released, and then there's a small little tense moment and then it's released, and you're just sort of going like a wave in this giant tense scene. You're just going for the ride, and you're going sort of up and down, up and down, up and down, and it's not just like a straight up scene, you know.
Yeah.
You're like, there's so many emotions that are happening just within the same thing, while at the same time you're like, man, well, what's gonna happen next? What's gonna happen next? What's gonna happen next? And yeah, and now all the rebels are moving in with the commandant and everybody, and Mr. Bryan Cranston throws the thing in the bonfire, and he's like, ah! And everybody is in order, everybody's in line, and the heist is pretty much begun now, right? I guess. What do you think?
I guess once
you
they're in
think
that room.
yes, and so they enter the room, and all of a sudden, from behind the commandant and the engineer, the rebels just charge in, and they start telling all the soldiers who are in the room, "Okay, move, move, move!" And everybody's like, "What's going on?" And there's like, "This is a heist, blah blah blah. This is a robbery," and yeah, and that's around the time where I kind of like stopped taking notes. Where I mean, I still have like one or two notes where it's like they enter the vault and stuff like that.
Oh, you just also left it without any notes. Okay.
Yeah,
Well, what I
I
like,
was just like, it was hard to like, because there were so many things happening at the same time. I was like, if I start writing everything down, I'll just read out every single thing that
so
happens.
specifically when they first get into the room and the other officer pulls the gun on Mimic, no, yeah, that's his name, right? That I like the fact that he did it because you can see Mimic shaking a little bit, and that officer clocked it. It's like a little
Yes.
small, tiny moment, but that's he sees his opportunity and he takes it. And then I think that's why I was overthinking the Skeen bumping into Tamarin, because I think they are now starting to slowly put in the seeds to let us know how to think about Skeen at the very end of the show, which
Yes.
I had thoughts about it, but I still think at the end, what I liked about the end is that it wasn't fully clear. But if you look at these specific moments throughout the show lets you know his actual intentions, because the commander is telling him, let the kid go. And there's a very quick shot, but Skeen's reaction is he puts the gun closer to the kid and pushes the gun
really?
onto the head to the kid, showing already that, okay, this guy is not a good character. You know, he is willing to kill a kid for this, and he's very much using him for that. And yeah, and so I guess I'll just put it together, the the things I noticed.
Oh,
But so
okay. I get what you mean, because
So that-
he's very sad about Nemec at the end, and he's like, he's just a kid.
yeah, where again, so we'll get to the final episode, because the end of the episode and the discussion with him, because I really think that could have gone two ways. But why I think the scenes that happen that I think are supposed to make us be clear about his intentions, it starts with that, him putting the gun closer to the kid's head. The next part is later on he picks up an Imperial gun, which is from the movies we know it. It is a heavy machine gun that is rapid fire, and he's supposed to do cover fire, but he only decides to shoot one single shot, which is very interesting when you have a gun that is perfectly made for covering fire. Do not use it unless you might not want everybody to make it out of here.
Mm,
And the last part, before we get to the end, is when he walks in the vault, there's a certain look on his face of almost like greed when he sees the money. That is not a look of we did it. There's not a look of this rebellion is saved. We gonna make something. It looks like a look of holy shit, that's a lot of money. And I think these three things, there might be other things I missed, but I think these three things specifically I put in place for us as an audience, if we question the end, to find something conclusive so that they don't have to bring it up later, which they probably won't.
right. Yeah, that's true, man. Actually, because obviously, yeah, we'll get into the end later, but I actually didn't notice that, and oh, there we go. Now, okay, so I had the scene playing, and it was like he
And you
does
see the gun getting
he
closer to the
puts the
kid's head
gun,
when he says, "Leave the
he
kid
puts it
alone."
on the head, and
Yeah,
and
and
he
pushes
like
him
sort
down.
of
You know,
uh,
that's not the
is
the move a hero would do.
mm,
You know,
you're right. But also, I guess we've called it out right from the start that he's going to be the cipher of this crew, right?
yeah. But I still like how they
Because
played
he
it
straight
because
up looks shady.
the
Right?
way they played it was beautiful.
It's right, and especially in a way where it's like you're right. It's not like completely out of left field. It's like dun dun dun. You see, you didn't expect this, right? It's like yeah, we kind of showed you that he's not a great character, and he might be the one who betrays people, or maybe not, you know. But he's the shady one out of all of them. Where I guess you're right. If it was like Cameron's the betrayer, and it's
And
like, oh, okay, but why? What did he kind of? You didn't really set that up in any of the episodes. It's just like it's a reveal just to have a random big reveal. Where in this it was like it's set up right from the start. And same with everything Clem does. Everything he does at the end, I'm like, okay, everything we questioned about why his character is written the way it's written for a protagonist, for a main character,
yeah, I thought
it's
that
like,
too.
okay, okay, all right,
And
I get you. That's who I was thinking of more during the end. And you're
I
right.
also I have
I
to
was
mention
questioning.
uh, I was criticizing the name last time, not criticizing it, but I was saying that everybody has their own rebellion was a better name. Now after this
Right.
episode, it makes much more sense because of the
Mm,
reference of the axe being towards his brother. If we go with that theory, that it was all playing into that theme. If he actually doesn't have the brother, it makes that much more interesting as a name. Where there, it's a setup. You know, they're like, think
mm.
of this matters all the way until the end of the heist.
Yeah, yeah, that's true. A lot of cool things that they've managed to. This is what we're talking about. That everything they've set up so well and in so much detail. Where it's like, why have these big moments of like gun changing and hand switching where there's literally no point to it?
Yeah,
This is the reason those things stick out even more. Where it's like if you
exactly.
have a head of perfectly coiffed hair, that one little strand is going to look way worse than if you have just messy hair. And
Hmm.
it's like you're not going to notice one strand. Everything's just messy. So you're like, whatever, it's just messy hair. But if it's everything's just perfect and you have one strand just sticking out, you're like, it's going to like, hey, look at that. So yeah, this show is a perfect head of hair with just one or two strands sticking out, like
I like
like in a
that.
cartoon character.
Yeah.
I like that too. It's very human of them, I guess, because the characters they've shown are very human. So I guess the writers can also make mistakes.
I mean, they have to do 12 episodes. It's going to be
Right.
difficult to be perfect.
That's true. That's true. And who knows? I want to give them maybe a little bit of a benefit of doubt or credit, or maybe they actually have a reason for it later on. I don't know.
Yeah. You never
Right?
know.
Or yeah. So now we have that tiny little standoff with the engineer pulls a gun on Nemec, Clem puts a gun on engineer. Oh, and right before that, the funniest scene of the episode. I don't know if you noticed that. Tamarin bit slaps Commandant.
I noticed that
Did you
too.
notice that? How? It was like the
he
meme.
got the backhand that the commandant was
Yeah.
threatening the son with.
Even the
Straight up
sound that they used for that
bitch
slap,
slap.
it was like,
It's like you expect Cat Williams
and
to be doing that
it's
shit.
exactly. It was the funniest thing. I was
Like,
like,
wait, is that
wow,
pony
dude.
time? What is this?
Yeah.
Like,
It's almost like I don't know who does that, but
is
like
it
it's
like
like he took off
it's
his glove and bit slapped him
Friday
with that.
after next where the guy's going around going,
Yeah.
yeah, I
Dude,
noticed
it
that.
was
I totally noticed
amazing.
that.
Wow. I was like, wow, why would you? I mean, I guess it's like a little bit of a redemption thing for all the bullshit they've shown these guys going through with these commandants and how racist they are, and it's almost like all people who have suffered racism, if they're in front of a racist, they would love this scene to just have them bitch slap the racist right after all this stuff. Like
Yeah, and
he like took out his glove and bitch slapped him like,
and
with the
again,
glove.
it's also for all the times he hit his son, right? Little payback.
Oh right, oh there you go with the back of his hand.
Exactly.
Oh, you're right. I forgot that. Wow, I totally forgot that. I didn't make that connection. Damn, that's amazing.
It's right in the back of the hand.
They're really
I'm
good.
going to get it.
Cool. Yeah. So yeah. And obviously, once that standoff is there, so that's another tiny little tense moment, which we're like, oh my god, what's gonna happen? Is the engineer gonna? Is this how it's gonna get derailed? Every
Also,
time something happens, I'm like, is this how it's gonna get derailed?
I like that it was Mimic that got the gun on him, and I was like, he's not even gonna make it out of the first room.
Yes, I was like, this is what's gonna happen.
I was like, okay. Yeah. I was like, thank God that didn't happen, because it's like, really, you're really gonna just kill him immediately? I was like, okay, wasn't much better than who
The
they
dude
actually
just
killed.
got inside.
But yeah, well, yeah.
That's amazing. Yeah, they know that the audience already knows that something's gonna happen, so
Yeah.
they're doing it in the best way. Where it's like, is this gonna happen? Will they? Won't they? Will they? Won't they? It's like a rom-com.
But yeah, then Val jumps in perfectly in. Right as they're saying nobody's gotta die, the first guy dies.
Although, so two things with that, right? Even I thought it was Vel who shot the guy, but it was actually Cinta.
Oh,
Yes.
okay.
When I went back and rechecked, because even I just saw Vel, but you see Vel behind her. So it's Cinta who drops in and shoots the guy. But okay, no, because I was later on when they're in the comms room or something, or where they have the ball gags on their mouth. I thought they had the engineer. Yeah, it looked like S&M kind of. No, it looked like S&M kind of like ball gags. I could actually. I thought they
like
must have.
Flat, I don't know. I didn't see the ball gag.
It was like this, and no, just the design and the color of it. It felt so like bondage.
You would know better.
Now you can joke about it. We're in the middle of the pod. No one's gonna listen to this. But yeah, so I also thought that I was like, oh, the engineer just got shot. Okay, cool. But then later on, I think he's in there. So maybe he got shot in the shoulder. But once we get to that, I'll see.
At first, I thought Mimic was shot. The way that it's cut and everything, it looks like a shot goes at Mimic, but and apparently didn't get. But it was weirdly. Right. I didn't watch it again, but at first I was like, oh, that actually looked like they're making it look like his gun goes off, right? I did see that correct. Yeah,
I think so.
But yeah, again, playing with our expectations.
And doing it very well.
Yeah.
Now everybody gets in the elevator, and Vel is just sort of telling him, "Hey, like, calm it down." You know what? The more I look at him, he does look brown. I can see him. I can see him in better lighting now. So,
he's definitely brown.
And yeah. Because I have the sorry, just once again, I have the perfect shot pause somehow, where it's Clem, Commandant, and then Tamarind. So you have the perfect shade of the gradient.
So you know where he belongs.
Dark to less. Yeah, exactly. So I'm like, within seeing those comparisons, I was like, okay, he's not white, because between Clem and Tamarind, I would be able to tell if someone's white or not.
Yeah.
Yeah. He's got dark features, as they mentioned in episode 1.
What stuck out to me when Val gets into the elevator, it's a thing that happens in all movies, but I don't know why this time it stuck out. They have hostages in the elevator, and Val walks up to them, and to camera it looks like this. She's walking to the elevator. Back to the camera, and then stands in the elevator, facing camera back to the hostages that could totally just jump her.
Right.
Whereas, like, okay, I know it looks really cool, and it did look really fucking cool, but at the same time, again, it just doesn't make sense. It's like, this is not against the show. This was like I had to start, and I was like,
No, but
I never realized that in all movies. But usually they don't have hostages. Usually it's just like the squad gets in, and they're like, "All right, the squad look in the elevator." But this time, because it was they had hostages that literally just tried to shoot one of you, might not want to face them with your back. You know, keep your eyes on them. Anyways, just random thing I
that's funny.
noticed.
No, but that's funny though.
Yeah.
They have to do these movie type scenes. Yeah. But one small thing with that, did you maybe get a feeling that maybe Roboda could have been in on it? The way she shouts, because she shouts like, "Do whatever they want, J-Hold," and I was like,
No,
she
that
would just be
was-
like screaming about her son.
Well, I got them more as like, I don't want to lose you. Like that's something
Right,
a wife would tell to her
Oh,
husband
right,
when he's a hostage with like terrorists. It's like, I know you want to protect the empire, but just do what they say because I want you to come back. That's how I saw it, at least.
Or I think it was more like because everybody was like, or the child gets it, and she was just worried about the child.
And that too, I guess.
Yeah, right. It was just a small thing. I was like, is she? But no, I guess not. And now, yeah, so now they've entered the comms place, and Kimchi cannot hear the comms now, and he's like, wait, what's going on? And yeah, and we see Lieutenant Gorn like checking. He's running around outside, and oh, there we go. He walks in. Vel's walking into the vault, and then she does a little turn with the gun.
Mhm.
Dun, 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 and then the other elevator doors close. You're right, but she does have her peeps in the back, like Cinta and I think Steve is there with them.
Yeah, like I said, it was just a little thing I noticed.
I just saw that, so it looks funny
it
too.
looked cool.
Not-
But yeah, it doesn't seem tactical.
doesn't seem practical. Yeah, so now Kimchi's again checking the comms, what's going on, and the Danis start chanting like Midsummer. And you're like, oh shit, things are about to go down. And now we see the hostages with the. Okay, now I know why they kind of look like ball gags, because you're right, they kind of do look like COVID masks, but they look like leather and they look like thick, and it looks like a belt rather than just like a thing they tie, you know? I think that's why I'm like, that looks very like yeah, very adult themed.
Okay,
It would be okay if there wasn't if there was a little boy in there, but it would have been fine. But because there's there, maybe you could have changed the look of it. I don't know, because it looks very like belt, like thick, and I was like, yeah, but yeah, that's the reason. Oh no, and it's not even like it's like a thing that like goes around the thing. And it's like, dude, that looks kind of gross. What's wrong with you guys? I know it's an adult theme. I know it's Star Wars for adults. Shameless plug for our episode 1, but
Costume
this is
designer
taking
is
it
going to
too
listen
far,
to his episode and going to be like, "What's wrong with us? What's wrong with you?"
what's wrong with you? Oh my god, we gotta edit that episode. Oh man. But yeah, so now we get that tiny little scene of Vel has to now separate from Cinta. Cinta is going to be in the comms room, and Vel has a little moment, and Cinta's like, "Hey, I'll be fine." And she puts her hand on her hand, and they lock eyes a little bit, and then like, okay, cool. I was like, okay, that's all we need. We get it. Like they're in love with or they care about each other a lot.
It's
right?
like, don't
I
worry,
guess.
Twitter. That's all we're doing. Don't come
Yes,
at us.
that's all.
Please, Twitter.
Yes, okay. The show or the characters have nothing to do about any of this. They're just the fact that they're gay is incidental to the story.
Yeah.
Okay, it doesn't define them as who they are as a character. They just happen to be gay. And one thing that popped in my mind for this was right. So at first I was like, okay, so let's say they're gay. So why would Vel get jealous of Clem? Because Clem's a dude.
Maybe
Then I was like,
bi.
maybe.
Like, what does it matter?
So yeah, no. So then I was like, okay, so maybe because that's important though.
Okay.
Like you said, it's like you're talking about pissing and having sex. Like this is important too. Where I think someone RLM came up with the term called passive progressive when they were talking about Rise of Skywalker and how at the end of the medal ceremony there was a lesbian couple kissing in the background.
And Twitter went
So
crazy
they were joking.
about it.
Yeah, exactly. So my point was like coming from that to this, where now they're sort of establishing an actual maybe gay couple, or at least two people of the same sex who have feelings for each other. They set it up by showing Vel get jealous of Clem, a guy, and Cinta getting close. Twice they do that, right? Which actually led us to actually theorize why this is happening and the fact that they're gay. So the next thing I was like, oh, maybe Cinta's just bi. So that's cool. Now the third thing I thought of was that what if in the Star Wars universe none of this actually exists? People are just attracted to anything, right?
I mean,
That
we've
could
been
also
talking
explain
about it.
K2SO's feelings towards Lando. It's a robot and a dude, but here it could be like
I don't
it's not that they're gay.
K2S2 is from
It's
Rogue
that
One. K2SO.
no
Sorry.
K2S. Oh, who was in Solo? The chick robot who has a.
I
Or maybe
forgot.
I'm sorry, not the chick robot. The robot.
Forgot her
I
name.
don't know if we're yeah. But listeners know
I
who we're
want to
talking
forget
about.
her. I really want to forget her.
Yeah, exactly.
It's even just having to
but-
think back at it. If you, I know you like to bring it up, but every time you do, I'm just like, can we just let it go? I don't want to think about her and Lando
It
and
happened,
what it
okay?
means.
It
Okay,
happened.
like
It's canon.
I know, but like until
You
they
have
bring
to
it back
accept
up,
it.
until they bring it back up again, can we just like let it be? I don't want to think about those two again. Oh my god.
Okay. I won't bring it up unless it's super duper important. Okay, how about that?
Yeah, and every time I just have to
But-
think
but-
of what she's doing to Lando's penis.
Well, she did sacrifice herself, so I guess she doesn't have to.
Makes you wonder what all the holes in the ship are for.
Dude, makes you wonder what Lando did to her. Maybe Lando had a one night stand with her and then just left her be.
I don't want to find out.
Right?
I really don't. This is one of those
You
stories.
really, you who wants to look up who pissed first in all of Star Wars canon can't handle that stupid robot. And I don't even think it's you about not handling robot in person, but I think it's just the stupid robot that you hate, right?
I hate the robot. It's like I'm
Right,
okay
okay.
with humans hooking up with droids. Just that droid. I don't
Right.
want to see that droid again.
And then there's like weird aliens also in the whole universe. So that's what made me think, where I'm like, maybe none of this just exists. Maybe people are just attracted to whoever they get attracted to.
Yeah, I guess until they
Right.
bring it up, that can totally
Right.
be a thing. I mean,
and it
brothers and
explains why she
sisters
would get
apparently
jealous.
brothers and sisters apparently are allowed to kiss, and nobody's gonna point it out or make him feel weird about it.
Dude, it's not allowed to. They just did it by mistake, okay?
Yeah, but no one ever mentions it afterwards, and it's like, wait a minute,
Because they're all trying to forget about it, like you with
Yeah.
the robot.
right? Exactly. So, but if that's okay in the universe, then I guess anything goes.
It's like when hetero guys accidentally kiss another dude, they immediately want to forget that. That never happened to me.
What the fuck?
I'm joking, guys. I'm joking, okay?
Yeah, a little bromance.
Someone bumped into me, okay? Steve bumped into me by mistake, and that happened, okay? That's all that is.
You said no homo afterwards, and it was all good.
Yeah, exactly. And then I tried to forget about it until it was brought up right now.
Like every time you touch a penis, just say that real quick.
My cousin and I touched wieners in winter. There's an episode of South Park, guys, with Cartman Tourette's, in case you're wondering. Just for your reference. Well, okay. Back to Star Wars. Andor. And there's a same scene of Vel running back to the elevator and then turning around. You see it from the perspective of the hostages. This is the second time this happened. Now I can't unsee it. Like now I notice it every single time. And now Kimchi is asking one of the soldiers, "Hey, what's happening with the comms?" And I don't know why I found it so funny, where the soldier's like, "Weird, right?"
Yeah.
It's like, yeah, that's what. Yeah, weird, right? Maybe it's the eye. It's like that's what we would be like. Yo, is the internet down? Weird, right? Maybe it's the storm outside or the rain.
I should check the subtitles, but there was one point where it sounds like Kimchi saying that like the one line is open, but all the other ones are fucked. I was
Yeah,
like,
that's exactly what he says.
it says fucked.
No, he doesn't say fucked. He does say
Okay.
one line over. He doesn't say fucked.
It
I thought
don't,
you
it,
made that up.
I listened to it twice and it was too lazy to put on the subtitles. And I was like, that totally, in
It's
the second time,
fried. He says it's
fried.
fried.
But the way he says it, it sounds like fuck. I was like,
It's
nah.
fucked.
I was just like, I would just accept that it wasn't that. But I totally listened to it twice and I was like, that still sounds like, yo, all the lines are fuck. It's like, it would have almost
All the
like
lines are fucked, dude.
you're
imagine,
right. The
imagine, like
guy's
you know how
response is so like, oh.
like how like PG. I think PG-13 movies get like one fuck
Yeah,
that they can drop, and imagine this is how they chose to drop
that
like
would be
their
the
fuck
best.
like
That'd be
randomly.
amazing. That'd be the
That'd be so
greatest.
amazing.
Yeah.
All the lines are fucked. I was like, whoa,
Yeah.
what? They just dropped F bomb. They use their one F bomb on this. That'd be so funny, dude. Oh man, you made this episode so much better for me somehow. You made it worse and better at the same time. I don't know how.
That's
So
what I'm here for.
I went back from 11.5 to 10, and now I'm back to 11.5. I'm going on a seesaw with this at like the episode is taking me. And yeah, they're like, hey, it must be the eye, right? Blah, blah, blah. And now we see Commandant and everyone going down in the elevator. Everyone gets in position. And Steve sort of, he's like, hey, Clem, you're with me. And they get into that vault. So another thing about this, that now we get into the vault where we've seen Lieutenant Gorn reprimanding those other two guys, right? Who were talking about morale and all that. So my point was that normally in like heist movies and all these things, all the locations and all the places that they go to, like when the heist happens, normally it's so much is happening that my brain isn't able to like comprehend every single thing. Everything, the locations and everything always feel like, I don't know where they are. I don't know what's going on. But because they've set it all up in the previous episode where we've seen it once, now I know exactly where they are and I can focus on what's happening right now rather than trying to figure out where are they? What is this? I know exactly where they are. I know exactly where they're headed. I know exactly what the place is. I know exactly what the soldiers are doing there. And all it took was just a brilliant setup, scene by scene, one scene at a time in the previous episode. Or now when the heist happens, while the heist is happening, I'm only focused on the heist and I'm not questioning or even like thinking about any other things, like any other supplemental information.
Totally agree. I thought
Yeah.
like it was so much so that like I didn't even have that thought. Where like now that you brought it up, you're like, it's like totally right. We went to all the locations that guy went to in the end, as we expected we would.
Yeah. Exactly. It's just like how they planned it out, and you're like, oh, okay, I understand what's happening, and I'm eager to see if it actually goes according to the plan. Where otherwise, and normally in like other things, it's like you're trying to see what's happening, plus also understand the information around it. You know, where are they? What are they doing? And who are these people? And what are they going to do with them? We know exactly what their plan is. We've been to these places, and now we're just like, oh, we just hope their plan goes to fruition, and we're actually seeing it play out live. It's like seeing a rehearsal and then seeing the play live and seeing like, oh shit, what if they make a mistake? What if the actor forgets a line? You know, something like that. Like if
It's
you're
a
seeing the
classic
play
heist
live,
movie thing.
right? Yeah. So yeah. So now they're in the thing, and they've gotten all the soldiers. They're like, hey, get on. They're entering the vault with the armory, and what's the name? Clem. He's getting into his spaceship, into the Rono, the freighter, the freighter thing, and he's checking out everything. They're checking out all the stuff, and we see the Donnie's thing. The Donnie's dancing. We get Commandant's fingerprints, and the vaults open. And Commandant's like, hey, you can't open, like, I can only open the thing, but you can't open the actual armory. Like, oh my God, what's going to happen? What's going to happen? And obviously, what happens? Steve goes, fire in the hole. And suddenly everything blows up, and all the armory just comes. It's like giant casino tokens, gold casino tokens, right? And they're in like rolls.
Yeah.
So it's like like you understand what it kind of looks like, right? You're like, oh, okay, it's like gold tokens, I guess. And yeah. And oh, there you go. Steve is now looking at everything, and he's just like, oh my God, this is a whole lot of money.
Right? That
And he
look
just
on
goes,
Skeen's face is
let's
that.
go. Yeah.
It's the same. I also like the look on the commandant's face where he kind of is like, holy shit, you just that easily you
shit.
just broken that shit open.
Yeah, what the hell?
It was almost the look of like, oh, I didn't know it was that easy. Like maybe that's why
Yeah.
he's not able to, because they don't trust him to do the same thing.
Right. And also it's Clem has said this a lot, that they're just too fat and lazy and they don't think like they need to learn. He says those words, by the way. I'm not fat shaming anyone. Clem uses those words throughout the show. And I guess it comes into play when they show two commanders. Karn's chief commander is fat and lazy, or at least comes across lazy. And now the commandant, where she's like, maybe you've expanded. So that's a good play on words. And some of the funniest things happens, but it actually became really depressing later on. But speaking of fat, him being fat, I'm saying fat again because Clem has already used those words. Okay, I'm not fat shaming anyone. Don't fat shame us, please. I'm very sensitive. And yeah, so everybody's dancing, and the scenes are being one by one, and we're seeing, and then we see Cinta press a couple of buttons, and all lights of the dams go off. We're like, oh shit, what's going on here? And you just see another little thing I noticed was there's a lot of bonfires, right? I don't know if you noticed that. So this time also with the Danis and the big bonfire. So maybe that was like a setup because it was there. That's how I think both the first episode 4 and 5 ended, with the rebels around a bonfire.
Okay. Yeah.
I don't know. I just kind of noticed that. And a very cool thing happens. Small little thing again, where Lieutenant Gorn is on the inside and he sees all the lights keep going off. And then the moment they all go off, like you're like, why? Like you almost think like, does Gorn not know that the lights are supposed to go off? And then the moment it goes dark, he just switches on his flashlight. And he's like, oh, okay, this was all according to plan. It's all going according to perfect plan. And it's like, okay.
Again, the looks on that everybody's using, great, because I had that exact same thought where he has a look of concern almost, and you're like, oh, is he not prepared for this? And then it's like, no, that look meant that, oh, it's all going according to plan. Let's go. The plan is in action.
Yeah. Plan is in action, exactly. And everybody's
and nobody notices that the lights go off, which is again kind of strange.
Yeah, and not even the Danis, like.
It seems like
because they show like just
to
outside
be fair,
shot of everything.
At the very end, they do show that once the stars start coming in, everybody is united looking at it. The Imperials and the Danis, they're both standing there just in awe looking at it, and I think that's why they were using the stars, because they were not going to notice.
Maybe or maybe the lights were supposed to be turned off. And that's what Cinta was doing, because Cinta takes over that control room.
Maybe so to reduce light pollution. Could also be.
No, not to reduce light pollution.
What do you mean? Why not?
No, just to see the eye better.Maybe that's what they're supposed to do. And if the lights didn't go off, maybe it would have been a.
So like, how is that not reducing light pollution?
No, I know, but I'm saying like that's probably not why they were doing it. I think
if like they're doing it to see the eye better. Anyways, it doesn't matter. You're saying the same thing. Anyways.
No, like your conclusion is correct, but it may not be the reasoning behind it. That's what I mean.
But you said it, so anyways, like just move on.
I'm just gonna move on. And now we get to everybody's all the rebels are like forcing all the other soldiers to load up all the armory. And so this one little scene, I saw it it's funny right now, but it's not very funny later on. But it was just funny for me to see them ordering and shouting at Tamarin and making him do like physical labor. And at J-Hold. And Tamarin's and Clem they're just like, and it reminded me of, I don't know if you know the show The Biggest Loser.
Oh God.
Where these horrible coaches are just shouting at overweight people, and it's like the worst kind of coaching and the worst kind of like way to, and they're just shouting at them like just trying to do exercise. And I felt so bad for the commandant, and he had the look like, I can't push these, I'm too fat, like stop, like, you know, I'm too out of shape. And I was like, I laughed so much for just the fact that they showed it. I wasn't laughing at the people. I was like,
No, but they made it
why is
look
this there?
comical.
Like,
He was so like sweaty and his hair is
yeah,
all
he was
fucking like he's
sweaty.
just like,
Yeah,
holy shit, I haven't done physical
yes,
labor in like 450
exactly.
years.
And but it became very depressing at the end that I think he had like a heart attack because of it.
Again, so quick how they played it
Yeah,
off, but it was such a
yeah,
nice little cool moment when it's
yeah,
yeah.
yeah.
It was
But
such
yeah,
a
so
movie comical one. Like, "Ooh."
oh no.
Just legit like
Oh
some
my
should have
god.
a comic book or something. But all right.
Oh yeah. Oh, and then now there's the cool moment of everyone's dancing and chanting, and then you see sort of Bryan Cranston just standing with his spear. And then he goes, "Rrrr," and everyone's dancing around him. I was like, oh shit! I was expecting some magic to happen, like other than obviously the eye was magical, but I was expecting some other shit to go down as well, like magical. But I was like, it's okay. It was just the way they were doing it. I was like, what is he doing? And it was just like, I guess that's just part of the ritual. And yeah, everybody's loading the thing, and all the Imperials are like rushing down. They're like, "Hey, come fast! You're gonna miss the eye." Oh, and now, okay, so the Danis take like a cover and they put the cover on top of the bonfire. So maybe everyone, that's what they do. They shut off all the lights once the eye starts.
Hmm. Yeah.
Right? Yeah. Maybe that's what. So maybe that was the plan that that Cinta was in charge of. Like, okay, I gotta
Because
shut
that
off
is
the lights.
light pollution.
No, I totally agree with you. But
Anyways, move on.
I'm
Move on. Move on.
I'm saying
Let
they
it
would.
go.
No,
Let it go.
I'm going to finish this one. They did it so that they can see the eye better without the lights.
That is
Obviously,
reducing light
pollution.
pollution. Yes.
Yes, but that's not the reason why they're doing it.
I
All
don't
right, we're gonna move on.
Please, because I don't understand how that's not the same
Listen,
thing.
listeners, please tell us if you understand what we're bickering about for for no reason.
Please leave in the comments if you understand what's going on.
Please leave it in the comments if you understand what's going on. And whose side are you on? Are you Team Cap or Team Iron Man?
Who's who?
I don't know. We'll decide that after the comments.
I'll take Iron Man.
we'll do a coin toss and decide who gets who. All right, so yeah, they cover the thing, and obviously Kimchi has now heard Nemik and all speaking over the comms. It's like, oh my god, what's going on? And Kimchi gets some of the Imperials to go down. He's like, hey, we gotta go check this. We gotta go check this. And you see them rushing down the stairs, and then everybody just stops. It's like the wood clanking stops, the chanting stops, the bonfire stop, all the lights are off. And everyone just stops and just looks up, and oh my god, I'm watching this right now, and I'm actually getting goosebumps again. Like,
I did have a
it
thought.
was so goddamn magical.
We were earlier mentioning how the first star was really cool, and it sounded almost like a ship flying by. So I made me think about how come that it was so quiet when all the other stars came. It should have sounded like a machine gun fire or something.
Right.
But anyways, that's something I was thinking about earlier.
They should have maybe they reduced some noise pollution.
Okay.
All right. But yeah, oh my god, man, that I was like waiting for that, because the way the show had gone and the way they mentioned it, even in episode 4, they mentioned the eye of Aldani. I was like picturing in my mind. I was like, they've put a lot of money, a lot of budget into their cinematography. I can't wait to see the first magical Star Wars thing that they do. That's gonna be like, it propelled us from just janky technology in Morlani to like all this kind of Coruscant and all that stuff. And I was like, and now it's this arc is gonna propel us into the magic, the Force, and all that kind of stuff, you know. And we're gonna see something. I hope it's amazing, and it's amazing, dude. Just like,
and
yeah.
I was not ready for them to fly into it and have TIE fighters following them. Whereas like, this
Dude,
is already looking so dope, and then they start flying into it, and I'm like, yes, all the way through. I just like, fuck, yes, that's so dope.
That scene of when you see the guy getting into the TIE fighter, that one little scene that you see from the back, I was like, it was just like almost black and white, and you just see the TIE fighter, and you see the dude, like tiny little dude, getting into it. I know it's a callback to something. I can't pinpoint
Uh,
what scene it reminds me of, but man, the way they've shot like all the
what
scenes, they look so amazing.
what stuck out to me with that was that you usually see TIE fighters showing up out of nowhere, just coming in from the
Yes.
sky or somewhere, and we
Yeah.
finally actually get to see them like suiting up, and it's so fucking dope.
Yes.
So dope.
Exactly. Suiting
Love
up,
it.
and then how when they get inside the TIE
I
fighter,
mean,
the
yeah,
dude's got the
that's
mask on,
as part of it.
all
I
that. Yeah.
mean, like suiting
Right.
up as in getting into the TIE fighter,
Yeah.
getting ready. It just looked so dope. I was like, yes, this
Amazing.
is.
I was like, yes.
It's like they don't
I'm
overdo it with like you were saying. Everything is Star Wars. Everyone's dressed in like Star Wars. They're in the middle of Star Wars buildings, but they're not working like playing with things that we've seen a lot of before. So
yes.
when they do come in, they hit so much harder.
Exactly.
Where it's like, fuck
Yeah.
yeah, I almost forgot how the TIE fighters look. They were
Yes.
just flying by in the distance, and they went like now so good, love it.
Totally agree on everything that we've been like teased with little Star Wars thing, and it's built up slowly by slowly by slowly. Where I was asking the questions in the first 3 episode arc, where I'm like, does this even need to be Star Wars, right? If it was just some other random show just based in like hey, this is a new sci-fi spy thriller, right? It didn't need to be Star Wars. It's just like it's almost branded by Star Wars, and now it's like, okay, no, this is Star Wars. Like, and I'm not even as like I'm not even a Star Wars fanboy or anything where I know everything or I'm in love with everything. But just seeing all these things, the way they depicted, it's like you haven't seen cool shit like this since like the beginning, you know? And Mandalorian sort of kind of teased it, but this is like slowly by slowly, it's just built it up into this. And once I saw the eye, you know what I started thinking of? Remember like episode 1 and 2? Like how quaint does like Morlana feel now? Like remember when we were like, yo, is this the only place we're gonna be in and what's happening? And it's all like grungy and like gray and sandy. And they were just the only other location was like the flashbacks to like them on the island.
Yeah.
And that's it. And we were like, oh, okay, whatever. And now and I thought maybe this plot is just going to be this simple little plot of, oh, Cassian's just trying to find his sister, and now he murdered these 2 cops. So now everybody's trying to find him, and that's it, right? That's what I thought everything's going to be about, like Karn and Mosk, and now all that feels so tiny compared to this grand thing that we're in, this grand plot. And Cassian's like us is just dropped in the middle of all this that's happening.
Yeah.
Where I'm like, holy shit, dude, this is so great. And for someone like me who doesn't care about Star Wars that much, I'm like, this is everything about it is so awesome.
Yeah, totally agree.
All right. And also now there's this little moment of Commandant seeing Gorn for the first time, and he's like, you, and he realizes that Gorn has betrayed him, and he's like, you'll hang for this. And Gorn goes, 7 years serving you, I deserve worse. And you're like, ooh, that's like a verbal bitch slap, dude. You got bitch slapped twice by 2 black people.
I just realized they're talking about hanging a black person again.
Oh my god. Please. Let's go back to light pollution. I think that's a safer topic to discuss.
Like I said, after this episode, I don't know if they can handle that sort of shit well. Very, very.
Oh my god.
They're really borderline. Because now, please continue. We're going to get to the next thing that I had kind of a big problem with.
Oh, okay. Wait. So first, wait. So now we see the scene of we see the hangar where all the TIE fighters are, and then you see the shot where I wish we could have shown you this, but I'll tell you the timestamp, okay, guys? Maybe you can see it for yourself, where it's like it's literally around like 32, 30, 32, 50 or 33, right? You see the eye, all the meteors flying in the background, so that makes the color like bluish, greenish, and then behind it you just see the TIE fighter and the dude just getting into it, and I was like, man, that looks so amazing. And yeah, so he gets into it, he does all that stuff, and they're off. The TIE fighter from the inside looks pretty cool. Like it's got like those red lights and everything. And what's his name? One guy drops the entire armory. And they're like, "What's wrong with you? Leave it. Are you crazy?" what the hell? And all these little like chips fall out, and you're like, okay, that's the credits. And then right when they're about to go, Mr. Kimchi, he comes down. He's just like, hey, what's going on here, guys? What are you
Well, I
guys up
missed that
to?
part where he grabbed a couple of guys and is like, "Let's go check it out." He overheard. He was fixing the comms, and he just random like he was saying there's one line open, and he managed to get in there, and he heard them interacting, and then he grabs a couple of guys and starts running down there to the vault, and then he shows up here.
Right. Yeah. I mentioned that earlier, I think. That he figured out there was on the comms, yeah. But okay, so he's and then suddenly he's like, "Hey, what's going on? What's going on?" And Lieutenant Gorn's there. He's like, "Hey, get back to your thing. You're entering a classified mission. You're not supposed to be here." And then they look at the commandant, and Kimchi's like, "Commandant, what are you doing here? Why do you look so out of breath? I've never seen you like this. Why are you sweating? Why is your hair so out of place?"
That's a pretty good try on that cover, though. Like, it's a secret mission.
Yes.
You don't have clearance. I was like,
yeah,
not bad. Good, quick thinking.
I was like, what is he going to say? Because everybody, the cool part is that you're right. They have a like few seconds of when Kimchi comes down, and everyone just sort of freezes, and they're all like, you see Steve, you see a shot of everyone, Steve, Vel, everyone, and they're just standing in like in place and just like looking at each other like, what do we do? What do we do? And Goran's just like, hey, get back to your position. You're on a classified mission. I was like, oh, okay, that's pretty good. And yeah, and then the commandant was there, and Kimchi's like, Goran's like, commandant, tell them they're in a thing. And commandant just sort of faints, and Kimchi comes in, and they just start
faint. So I have a straight up heart attack.
Well, I'm being polite here.
Okay. The way they played it is like that. It's definitely not. The guy grabs his chest and goes, "Ooh!" Like, come on, like, you couldn't make it more clear and shit. Like, I thought we've learned that that's not what a heart attack looks like. But okay.
I was trying to be less graphic.
So then, yeah, the shooting starts, and who's the first person that gets hit?
I think it's just a bunch of people. Like the rebels are just shooting at people.
Someone gets it. Who's the first one to go?
Within the rebels.
Mm-hmm. It starts
so
as
within
they start off. As they start shooting, he gets hit before they even get to cover.
Oh, I don't know actually, because right now everyone's like the rebels have just been able to shoot some of the Imperials. Is that what you're talking about?
No, you don't remember who died first?
Oh no. Yeah. So okay. So that comes in a little bit where everybody's shooting, and then one Imperial goes in, starts fighting.
Seconds.
What?
Are you going to go frame by frame, or are you watching it?
Yeah, of course. So anyways, okay. So yeah, I'll jump straight to that where Tamarin dies first. Okay, where Vel's asking him to cover him, and then who does?
You have the show up in front of you. What is going on, Shabz?
It's still happening. The scene is still happening. What's that? Okay, why don't you tell me who dies first?
It's a spy guy. The guy I keep forgetting his name, Gorn or whatever.
Lieutenant Gorn.
Yeah, he straight up gets shot before anybody. He just gets shot straight down, blank in the face.
No, that's Tamarin dies first, dude.
No, and then Tamarin gets shot when he's asking Skeen to cover him before that Gorn dies.
Oh my god, is that what happens?
Oh
I didn't even notice that.
Did we watch the same episode? Keep asking me to watch the next episode. Have you watched this?
Oh. Oh my goodness.
So anyways.
Actually, you're right, yeah.
Now, since you're not going to bring it up. So, okay, first Gorn dies. Then we have everybody scatter around, and Val is trying to get out of the way. And then Tamarin is asking Skeen to cover, and the scene happens that I talked about earlier, where Skeen has a machine gun and does one shot, kills a guy. Then Tamarin runs out, and he gets shot and dies immediately.
Yes.
Now, Gorn and Tamarin, what do they have in common?
Don't make me say it.
How
Where they?
come
Oh,
the first people to die is not just the first guy to die is the black guy? They kill both the black guys first before anything. It's like that's what I was talking about. Why do you have to be
oh
so
my
cliche?
God. Okay,
How could you not notice what you are doing? We
I
talked
had
about
no
this in the
idea.
90s. We had brought this up in horror movies in the 90s. The black guy always
Oh
dies
my
first. We made
God.
fun of it in Scary Movie. Why is this still a thing? Why do I have to sit here and be like, how come the first thing they do is get rid of all the colored people, the dark skinned people, so that we're left with just the Hispanics and the whites? Like, what? They even kill the brown dude. That literally Andor is the only guy surviving, and the rest is all white people. Which again, I would not care about. It doesn't matter. It's been Benetton all along. Like we had all races, but why? Okay, kill Gorn. I'll give you that. He's a spy. He is going to die anyways. Why Tamron next? Why? I get it. In terms of the setup, it had to be one of those things where they got to the point. They knew what they wanted to do with Skeen and Mimic. And at some point, they were like, fuck. Did
Yes.
anybody notice?
We fucked up with the casting.
Did anybody notice that we cast the wrong people for these two roles for what we have planned for them?
Okay, so based on that, think about it, okay? How would you cast it?
Anything
Because you
else?
can't cast the
Make
you
Gorn
can't
a
cast
white guy.
no, like think about it. You can't
What?
you can't cast the Skeen as a black guy, because then people
No.
would be
Fuck
like, oh,
everything
so
else. Just Gorn, make him white.
okay.
He's the first one to die. No
No,
problem.
Okay. No. So even for that, they have like clear thing about him like being in the background to like two white dudes where he's serving them drinks and he's being
I mean, that's
reprimanded.
that's something you were seeing. I wasn't even going into that whole shit. That's you bringing in your kind of mentality into it.
Dude, he was serving them drinks. They're in country clubs in like the 70s or the 50s.
Yeah, I'm just saying. So there's been a thing that's been going on, and they
You're
still
right.
do it.
Mm.
So
Yeah, you're right.
again, I was just like, really?
That's hilarious.
I'm trying to
That's
enjoy the
hilarious.
show. This is a great scene. Everything's cool. Look at what Skeen's doing. And then I have to sit here and be like, but why? Why did you have to kill the two black guys? We've moved
That's
past
so
this,
funny,
guys.
actually.
Somebody
I
please.
totally didn't notice that.
The fact that you didn't even
Oh
notice
my God.
Gorn dying. I mean, how would you notice?
Dude, I was just like, oh, I guess like
What happened to
I
him then
noticed
in your
that.
story?
No. So I thought he just sort of died like right before they took off or something.
No, he was straight up.
Because he just got shot so quickly and it was just like out of frame, where I kind of just forgot about him while all the shooting was happening. Because
I
the
noticed.
Tamarind thing, okay, yeah.
I was
That's
like,
why I was like, who are you talking about? I
Really?
was like, I'm pretty sure Tamarind dies first. They made that very clear. Gorn reminds me of how like Bane died, like where he just, after this entire thing, he just sort of gets shot by a motorcycle and then that's it, Bane's gone. I was like, wait, did Bane just get shot? And that's kind of the same thing where I was just like, wait, where's Gorn? Okay, I guess he got shot within the shooting. And the one thing, because here's the reason also why I didn't notice it. No one reacted to Tamarind dying at that moment. I thought there would be like this huge emotional scene,
no,
but
they
it's like,
reacted
oh no,
to Tamarind.
they're
They
sticking
didn't
to their
react to
plan.
Gorn.
Yeah, so that's my thing. That's why I was like, I just totally forgot that Gorn got shot first, where I was like, oh, they just started shooting. I saw Cassian and everyone shoot a couple of people in the back, like the Imperials. And then once they're on the freighter, I'm like, okay, Tamarind died for sure. And Gorn's not on the freighter. So in my mind, I was like, oh, I guess Gorn just got shot, because I saw him get shot. And that frame just got like mixed up in my mind. I was like, oh, maybe it happened during the shooting. But I was like, I know I saw Tamarind get shot for sure. So I was like, oh, that's why I was like, who are you talking about? I was like, oh yeah, Lieutenant Gorn, that dude, one of the main guys.
Where you can play it
Oh
off
my
that
God.
like they didn't react because they didn't have as much history with him. He was just giving them information, right? But still, very unceremoniously just taken out of the situation. Where I get the idea he doesn't need to be at the end, and then also the way he was set up is like he needed, like that was probably his arc anyways, because he's Imperial that flipped, and unless he's going to be on the run forever, they know exactly who he is. Like, what was he going to do?
Exactly.
Like, he kind of knew that
Yeah.
this was probably a suicide mission, but
Hmm.
it's more about why did he have to be Like, why not have one extra guy just to kill him before? I don't know.
But then the way they've done the character stuff, it would just I get exactly what you're talking about, but I think you're right as well, where the writers, once this scene came, they're like, oh shit,
Yeah.
we've written ourselves into a pickle here. Where it's
episode
like there's
3.
literally no way out.
Like it's 2
It's like we'll have
episodes
to
removed
scrap
from
every single thing.
Yeah, they're like, shit, we've already shot 2 episodes. Now now someone brings this up. It's like, okay. Yo, Dan.
It was like,
Mr.
yo,
Gilroy.
Dan. What's the deal with? And it's like, oh no.
Anyway, yeah.
Oh my god.
Yeah. Anyways, I had to bring that up.
I bet one person was in the writer's room after they shot the scene, was like trying to get through to everyone, like how you were trying to get through to me. Hey Dan, who gets shot first? And he's like, Dan's like, wait, what are you talking about? Dan, who gets shot first and who gets shot second, Dan? Dan's like, I don't know what you're talking about. Dan, they're both black. Dan's like, oh no.
Look, as they're shooting the scene, as Gorn falls to the ground, there's just like a writer just going, oh, I didn't see it. Now that I see it on film, oh shit.
No.
I'm gonna be getting a coffee.
We don't even care about race, guys. We don't even notice the skin color. Okay, you racists. Dan's trying to cover up.
Like I said, after this episode, I don't want him to go into any serious issues about race because I don't think they know how to handle them.
Oh my god, I wrote all these notes about how well they've done with integrating social commentary, racism, sexism, LGBTQ rights, and all this stuff you brought up, and I was like, oh no, thank God I didn't mention any of that. I would have been like, Dan, you should have called me Dan for the whole next episode. Hey Dan. And the funniest thing is that you mentioned this, right? When you said what's the one thing they have in common? Right? Obviously, it's the fact that they're both African American. The other thing that they have in common is that they're both belonging to the Empire in some form or another.
Yeah.
Lieutenant Gorn was an Imperial commander, and that dude was a stormtrooper, and they all went rogue. So it's like, oh, see. So in my mind, it was like, oh, see, the 2 black guys are the ones who escaped the Empire. All you white dudes, and one brown commandant. So I was like, what are you talking about? There's so much going on, guy. There's a heist going on. I'm not noticing the skin color. Dan's like, dude, shut up. Oh my god, Dan started having PTSD of all the of the robot Twitter. That's hilarious.
But yeah, so they all shoot.
Thank you for bringing that to my notice.
Someone had to. I'm sure a lot of people noticed this.
Oh my god. Yeah.
But
so anyways,
yeah.
Now back to our original schedule, scheduled programming, original scheduled.
So everybody
gets the 2 guys get shot. They've escaped in the freighter, and they're in the eye, and there's 2 TIE fighters within the thing.
Yeah, basically mimic Skeen and Val make it while Andor is flying, and we get a really cool shot of him flying out on the rail, and it just goes from rail to them actually flying, and it's so dope. Flying into the eye, so dope.
I guess Clem was not lying about the weight thing. Or did he just get lucky?
But they never showed him looking at the thing, so I don't know.
So I guess everything he said
was he was saying it was underneath the machine. He would have had to get out of the cockpit once everything is loaded and look underneath the machine, under the ship, and look, which he didn't do. So maybe he was just lying.
And the fact that 2 people didn't come on board, maybe that didn't the weight, I guess, didn't matter anymore. Where he's like, hey, we're 2 people short. The weight's not going to matter.
I don't know.
He just got lucky, I guess. Maybe he just made up a bunch of bullshit and then just kind of got lucky.
Yeah, exactly.
So anyway, while they're flying through the eye, I got 2. So one thing obviously is warp speed, right? Or hyperdrive, whatever it's called. This is like the magical version of it, I guess.
Yeah. I mean, yeah, it just looked a little bit like it, yeah.
Right. And the other thing it reminded me of was Mad Max.
Really? Which part?
Yeah, when they're doing all the flare guns and they're driving through the flare
Okay.
guns,
Okay.
right? I got some callbacks to that in my head, right?
Yeah, it looked so dope though.
And
And then as the
yes,
TIE fighters are following, um,
mm,
we have Mimic giving the codes where Andor is asking, I need numbers. Where am I
need
going?
numbers.
Well, we missed the whole part. So as Andor takes
Yes,
off and
yes,
shoots
yeah.
off one of the containers with the money, flies at Mimic and squashes
Ah,
him. So
oh
as
my
they're
God!
flying
And you
off,
hear the sound.
Skeen is like and Val take the money off him, and you see that like all you hear is Mimic going, I can't feel my legs, I can't feel my legs. And you get a little pulp fiction kind of reference where Val takes out
Mm,
something that's like adrenaline
yes.
and shoots it, stuffs it into Mimic's chest, into his heart, just so that he's like alive for long enough that he can give the directions and do his job, get over the pain. Very cool the way that they did it. Where again, you know he was going to die, but then to crush him like that, which is very like you don't see it very
Dude,
often.
that was
There.
no pun intended, but that was crushing. Like as a
and
feeling,
then and then
like the
we
way they
have
did it.
and then we have that scene that I was talking about with him sitting in the cockpit behind Andor, and has the comms the navigation
Mm,
device that we've seen all these episodes, and
yes.
he's going and they're cutting back and forth between the TIE fighters, and if you look closely, they're also using their navigation, but theirs is
Yeah.
failing in the star field. And then one
Mm.
like you see the first one break. Well, before that, we have Mimic going pull up, no, climb up,
Climb,
climb, climb, climb,
dive.
and those are the last words that K2SO said to Andor as he died, which is kind of
To
cool.
Cass.
Kind of
To Han Solo.
no, to K2SO is Cass's robot from
Oh,
Rogue One.
to Andor.
So
right,
as
Rogue
he's
One.
holding the door and he's getting shot and Andor is climbing out, the last words that K2SO is saying, climb, 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 and he dies. Which is kind of maybe they're
Wow.
foreshadowing that our boy's coming back, because that's all I'm here for, man. I want my boy, the best droid ever, K2SO, to come into play.
Better than BYOB?
Way better. I'm sorry.
Really?
K2SO is the
Yeah,
shit.
man.
He's amazing.
Okay.
He's my favorite.
All right.
Yeah.
All right, okay.
But yeah, I thought that was
Better
a really
than
cool
that.
call-
Better than that
callback.
other droid in that other movie. What was that other movie called? And who was that other droid?
Don't you go there.
You're gonna bring up light pollution, aren't you? If I go down that road.
Exactly. But yeah,
Okay,
I thought it
go.
was very cool callback to that. And
Mm. That's
yeah,
really
again,
cool.
the show is doing a lot. That's why, again, like we said, the hair sticking out. They're doing these callbacks so nicely, deep cut, where it's not in your face.
Mm.
And yeah, again,
Where it doesn't feel like Rogue One, where they were doing callbacks to shove it in your face.
exactly. Well,
Right?
like again, this is something I actually realized once I was looking up the P thing. Someone mentioned it there. I was like, oh, look at that.
You gotta look up some of the things I'm interested in too. Check if that was a ball gag or not.
My search history is going to be terrible.
Star Wars pissing and ball gags. Does that exist? Is there 50 Shades of Star Wars?
I just saw, sorry, just to
Okay,
derail
go.
for a second, I just saw the last note I wrote was about the tailored suit keeping Cyril alive. But my notes got autocorrected and it says, guy's suit is tailored, keeping Syria alive. It's like, I just saw it in the corner of my eyes. It's like, what the fuck? Did I have this right?
God.
It's like,
Did it have a little line under it?
no, it says Syria. Like, what?
Oh my goodness.
Okay, anyways. So yeah,
I think we've touched every single social commentary now, ending with political.
oh, we haven't gotten to the hand rights, anyways. So the Mimic is telling Andor, which again I thought it was also it took me a moment to realize what the hell is going on, because he's telling him to pull up. Like I think
Climb.
Yeah, but they were trying to get into a certain
Right.
orbit, or I didn't understand. Is he trying to get rid of the TIE fighters, or because he's first saying climb and then he says now dip,
Dive.
dive,
Yeah, he says dive.
and yeah, but so they do that, and one TIE fighter goes down, and then as they pull up again and take off in dramatic fashion, no, the other TIE fighters get blown up. And
Get blown up.
I like the little, like, the glass cracking and everything, and Andor being like, "Are you crazy? What the hell?" And yeah, very cool. Again, the tension's super high, and yeah, amazing scene.
I agree. Everything about it. And then there's obviously the climax of it all, where all the Danis are down and you just see the entire meteor shower, and Danis are like crying because it's like so emotional.
And that's what I was saying. And you can see that the Imperials are standing with them, and they're all together as one, just looking at it, and they're kind of unified by the stars. Where I wonder if that's maybe some kind of
by the Star Wars. I just ruined your entire moment, didn't I? Imagine someone, people are like watching the Eye, and someone's like, "Hey," this is like nudging his friend. It's like, "Hey, isn't that like the Star Wars?" Like, dude, shut up. It happens once every 3 years. Yeah. All right. So yeah, and then they escape, and they're sort of Vel's like, "No, I just want to go straight back to the thing." And what's his name? Skeen is like, "There's a doctor I know. It was sort of a contingency plan that so we can go there." And Clem's like, "Okay, how do we get to the doctor?" So we're like, "Oh, Clem, you're doing something for the good, you know?"
Finally. No, but finally it's like we see what Clem's real morals are now that he doesn't have to be on his back foot.
It was that one line of him deciding, and Vel, who's come across as such a compassionate, empathetic character and a leader, came off so cold, and like she left Tamarind, she left Gorn, and she didn't care. She put that thing, but she's doing her job as a leader, man. She's got to take tough decisions.
The coolest thing is how they play with the audience, where it seems like Skeen is the most concerned, and he's trying to save Mimic, but actually he's just trying to get them to a planet so he has a chance to take the money.
That's a quick little switcheroo for us, where they set up all this Steve stuff where he's going to be shady, and we're like, oh my god!
My proposition for the name of this episode: Criss-cross Applesauce.
There we go. We've got our title. Oh man, that's exactly what happens throughout this entire episode. It's subverting everything that they've set up, and then they subvert your expectations, and then they bring it back to that same thing where you're like, "Oh, okay, cool. I'm glad you made us play around with it, and not just make it a stalemate where it's just everything just stays stagnant and goes according to what was planned, you know, and everything was assumed that it would work out."
And now we get to my favorite scene of this entire episode, which is crazy, because there's so much crazy, amazing stuff already, and so many amazing scenes and shots. Everything about this planet and the Doctor. Love from beginning to end, from the look of the Doctor, where it seemed like they did it practical. It looked like in between, I stopped looking at his face and I was looking at his hands, because I was like, I think those are real hands. I don't think those are CGI hands. And
when they showed the 4 hands, I was like, I went, whoa! Like it was like they just sort of panned down, and I was like, hey, whoa!
Yeah, and
I normally don't get excited about creature designs, but
he has so many hands and he's doing so much, and Val still has to stand there and hold the blood bag.
Yeah. Did that remind you of you mentioned Pulp Fiction? Did that remind you of Inglourious Bastards, where they take the actress to the doctor when she's gotten shot in the foot? You remember that scene?
I do, but I feel like I can see the reference.
Even though this scene is literally there in every single movie where there is a shady doctor that you have to go to.
But like in Inglourious Bastards specifically, they take her to like a vet because they don't have an actual doctor, and then they don't actually help her. Brad Pitt just uses it to torture her and get information.
My point being like just the look of the scene and like how everything.
I was just like, the design of that doctor is amazing, and then in front Mimic there, and he's in the back just like playing around on his back, and it's just amazing.
Squirting some stuff into his back.
and then we get our big scene where
Yeah. But
finally
yo, before that, I just wanted to ask you: you didn't mention Maz Kanata? Didn't that remind you of Maz Kanata
it did.
with the glasses and stuff, right?
Yeah, but his glasses were like in his head.
Little tiny, little smaller.
Yeah, like hers, she can like flip open and stuff. These seem like they're like part of his
Part of
body,
his thing.
almost like cybernetics. But such a
And
dope
he's got
design,
like a thing.
and they like
Yeah.
nicely linger on him, and they pull out the shot, and you see just a wide angle of his arms doing stuff, and amazing. Loved all of it. I hope he comes back because it's amazing. Where like we saw all of this, and they didn't have to give us that, but they made sure that even like just a character like the Doctor is such a dope fucking thing to look at.
I
Where
agree.
it's just like, thank you. You didn't have to do it, but you did, and I'm fully here for it.
I totally
yeah.
agree.
Then we get
Yeah,
our
so-
scene.
You want to talk about that?
Well,
Scene with Skeen.
so
The
this
Skeen
scene,
scene.
basically where Skeen finally takes Andor to the side, and they're sitting outside the place where the Doctor is doing his thing, and Skeen finally mentions like it's about 80 million credits in there, you know.
Dude,
and,
I was like, whoa.
and it's like he's saying, Andor, you were here, you want to get paid and get out. And then we slowly find out that he's like, Andrew is questioning us, you're not here for the rebellion, and what happened to your brother? And he says there is no brother. And what
Yeah,
I
I'm like,
love
"Oh, what?"
about this entire scene is that you, like I said, they set the things into like the little moments into the show that let you know that he's most probably right now being genuine. He actually wants that money. But what I love about the scene is that in both ways, like first of all, he could still be testing Andor, because it could also him being like, look, you're here for the money. There's a lot of money. Let me see if I give you this option. Would you take it? And then the beauty about that is if he's testing him, right? Then, I mean, like there's still a chance that he's going to shoot Andor. Like, how does Andor know for sure that he's testing it? Why this scene is so beautifully written is the fact is there's no way for Andor to know if he's being tested. But if he's not testing it, how, like Andor said, can he trust him at all? So that it comes to that point when Andor then finally, as Skeen is still explaining the point, and he's saying there's this place a few planets away, and like we can get there mid-sentence. I love also that you see Andor putting his hands behind his back a little bit, and I already knew that he's grabbing his gun. Like we've been with him long
Oh,
enough.
okay. I didn't
Like,
see that coming.
Really, like that's the same move he did also last time when they had the standoff. Was hand to the back on his gun. You know the gun is back there, and
Right.
I was already thinking, oh, he's reaching for his gun right now. And then when he does the shot and everything, it's just like I get it. Like in that position where if I was Andor, at least me personally, I feel like there was no out. There was no convincing him that like, you know, like how do you get out of that scene? Either way, whether he's right or not, there's a chance that he might shoot Andor, and Andor doesn't trust him. He knows he's a schemy bastard, that he's from prison, and that you can probably not trust him. And I don't know. I just love the tension of it, the resolution, and everything was great. And my second proposition for a name for the show is Andor always shoots first.
Andor, oh, shit, that's too much of a spoiler.
Yeah, I guess.
That's too much of a spoiler.
But I like that this has become his thing, you know? Like, you know,
Yeah.
there's no hesitation.
And they mentioned and it's literally the first thing we questioned about him in the show. And it's everything that people questioned about him as a character in Rogue One.
Yeah.
We were like, dude, the guy's just murdering people, and it's like, why are we rooting for this guy? Why is he our protagonist? I don't want to root for him. He's just a straight up and then when you see him in the show, you're like, oh my god, this is one of the shadiest characters who's just going around shooting cops. Has like the first thing when he shoots that cop without any guilt, we're just like, oh, like geez, like that's kind of dark. Like where are they going to take us with this? And it all makes sense that he's someone who would do that. And yeah, man, I was left questioning, but obviously all the setups that you've brought up with him Skeen like putting the gun on the kid's head is like, obviously all the signs point towards him being shady. But while he's talking, literally the only thought that's going through my head is like, oh my god, he's testing Clem, and Clem's gonna say no, we gotta stay with the rebellion, and then they'll all mourn over Namek, and then they'll go somewhere and they'll go meet Luthen, and
Yep.
then the episode will end. So that's what was happening in my scene while they're having their back and forth, and then
I'm pretty sure
Clem just shoots, and I was like, what the
I
fuck?
think it's all by design, because the next thing is Val asking Andor, where is Skeen? And Andor
Yes.
goes, he wanted to go take the money. And she's like, that's a lie. You never do that. And Cassian is just like, you're going to have to think about that.
Yeah.
And I
Yeah.
love that line where it's just like, yes, because it's totally been written that way, that you are questioning everything. Again,
Yes.
this whole thing, and it's beautiful how it could play both ways. Where, again, I don't think, do you think Andor could have, if he was testing Andor, the way that he was talking, do you think Andor could have convinced him? It's like if Andor says, you know what, I feel like you're doing a wrong thing, right? You are, not even say you're testing me, just to prove, like, to check if he's testing, be like, I don't want to take the money, I'm here for the rebellion. In Andor's head, he becomes Val, where if he's wrong about this call, right, it means that he is another target for Skeen.
Okay.
Right? So what could Andor really do? Where, like, that would be the actual safe thing. Like, you can take the risk and try and play along, or I don't know. It seemed very much so like, for the character that they've established with Cassian, that just, it's the first time where he pulled out the gun, shot someone cold blood, and me, as personally, I was like, okay, I get it this time. There was no other way out. This was the best thing to do right here.
I questioned it completely, where I was like, oh shit, like the dude just because you expect the scene to play out differently, right? The way they're talking, you're like, oh, like you said, is he testing me? Is he not testing me? Well, the one leverage that Clem had with him was the fact that he's the only one who can pilot the thing. So even if they had to go to the moon, he would Skeen needed him to pilot the thing to the location.
Yeah, I thought that too, but then he tells Val to go fly it herself, which I also didn't understand. I think it was more about he was the only one who can fly it out of that spot. But I think afterwards, I don't know, I feel like it's implied that they don't need him anymore to fly it.
Right.
I think it was
maybe Skeen didn't know how to fly it.
Maybe. I don't know. Yeah, it could be.
But
why is he trying to share the money with this random guy he just met?
Yeah, because if he really was a shady character, the way they've shown everyone just shooting everyone cold-blooded, Skeen would have just shot him.
I mean, exactly. But that's the thought that Andor had. Is like, his main thing was like,
oh, so Skeen would have just shot Andor and then just told Vel to fly it, I guess. Maybe that's what Clem is thinking, that he's disposable.
thinking. Yeah, he was thinking that, okay, I don't know if he's for real, but if he is for real, if there's a 1% chance, we have to take it as an absolute certainty.
Go on, keep going.
You know, what is, if there's a chance that he's bad. If I go with him, why would he split 80 million with me? Why wouldn't he take the whole 80 million? Why wouldn't he take me to whichever place only he knows about that's safe? And why wouldn't he take me there and then take me out? If I tell him I don't want to go with you, what makes him not shoot me the same way he wants me to shoot Val right now? So in that scenario, there's no way out for Cassian.
And Clem does say in episode 5, he doesn't want to go in with looking over his shoulder.
Yeah.
Which is why he comes clean about being a mercenary. So yeah, you're right about that. But again, I like that they left it a little bit open ended. Where it's
completely open ended. Again,
right? It's open to
things
interpretation.
I mentioned are very subtle in a way where,
right, exactly.
I'm definitely to an extent reading into them, but I also feel like they're purposefully put in there just to give some clarity, because I really think this is the sort of thing they don't need to revisit. It's all there in the episode because of these little moments. If you really are hung up on it and you really want to know. Yeah. And that's why they can leave you with that line. You're going to have to think about that, which again, it's so beautiful. It's on the nose, but it's like
And
such a beautiful
it's
line to put in there.
amazing. Yeah, it's amazing that they would leave our protagonist in again like a situation where we're questioning, did he do the right thing, did he not do the right thing,
Yeah.
did he do the right thing, did he not do the right thing, and we as an audience are still not sure, is he a good guy, is he a bad guy, what's really happening. I mean, is he starting to believe in the river? Did he feel bad about Nemec? Is that why he did all this? Is that why he just yeah, I love that they left it up for us to question and answer, and they left little signs here and there. It's kind of like obviously I'm not I don't want to compare it to Inception or something like that, but Inception also left it open ended, but it left signs where it could be this, but it
Or
could
it could be
also
that.
have other, yeah, exactly. Where from the writers, from whatever you see in the show that we've shown you so far, the details point to this thing, but it's open ended enough where you could also be wrong and everything would change. If you're wrong, your entire character would change because you've shot someone. It's not just like a small little thing. You've made like a huge moral decision in this moment, and it could have much greater implications on how we viewed our protagonist and what kind of a character is he so far.
And yeah, just to finish the scene, also then after he shoots Skeen, talks to Val, lets her know he shot
Right.
Skeen. He asked the doctor to give him a ship for 30,000 credits, what Luthen said is the minimum amount he would get for the crystal. And he gives
Well, Luthen said 50.
I think he said
And
don't get less than 30.
No,
It should be
Luthen said
worth 50.
don't get less than 50 for this, and Skeen is the one who points out that this is at least a 30,000 credits.
Okay, well, yeah. Either way,
Yeah.
he gets
Right.
the money's worth for the credit for the crystal, which he feels like is 30, and uses that immediately to just buy a ship and get the hell out of here. So he's not even in the end. All he wanted even before is just a ship, which is always such a cool thing. But anyways, but yeah. So and Val gives him the memoir from Mimic saying he insisted. Where it was she convinced him real quick. Where he's like, I don't want it. He insisted.
He's like, okay, I'll take it. Alright, fine. Whatever. I gotta get the hell out of here. I don't have time for this.
But I get it. I like that they at least
give me the damn book.
At least they made it. They showed it like he grabbed it in a way where he's just like, "Are you trying to pull a move on me?" He's like, "Okay."
Yeah.
No. And again, the doctor when he comes in with the gun, I love just the
He's like, oh, I did everything I could.
It's just like, yeah, I did what I could. And Mimic dies. I'm sorry, we missed that. Like the doctor says, "I'm sorry, I did whatever I could," and he just covers the sheet over him. And finally, after all this time, the last one to go. After we said he's the first one to go, he managed to pull through. And we also missed the part saying Skeen was saying we need to save him. The only reason we're here is because of him. He's the one that made this happen. He's the reason that we survived. So yeah, in the end, like we said, he really served his purpose. And it ends with Andor giving the crystal to Val and taking off into the night and leaving us wondering, where is he gonna go? Is Luthen gonna go after him, or is he off into a completely new adventure? Like what is it? It's a very cool way to leave our protagonist.
So yeah, I was gonna mention that as well. Like once all that scene ends and he takes off, it's like, did he just come for he thinks 30,000 credits is enough for him to pay off everyone at Morlana and he's just going back there?
I don't think so. I think Morlana is dead to him.
Really?
Yeah, he knew he was not.
Maybe this is who he is. Maybe he's like nomadic in that sense, where he just moves from place to place to place, and that's his life.
I think that's so far as what we've been told of him.
Because here's the thing with that, right? Morlana, he had a personal connection to everyone there, and they left most of those people except for Timmy. They left everyone alive there. But in this,
I'm sure that everyone back. I'm sure that eventually Morlana, we've already cut back to Morlana and they're setting up a base over there. So he has connections that will pull him back there, but I don't think, from whatever we've been told, I don't think he's trying to go back there right now. He's still on the run. He still has a warrant out for him.
How many episodes you said there were going to be?
12. So we're only halfway through.
Okay, yeah. So there's another thing. I think they're going to go to Morlana at the end of it. I think that's where the climax might happen.
Maybe.
Or maybe
at this point, it could go anywhere.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, you're right. Maybe they introduce fucking lightsabers and Force and Jedi's are gonna come into play later on. That would be amazing, dude. Can you imagine building up to all that? But even if they don't, I'll be happy either way. The way they've done so far.
It'd be nice if some sort of force comes in. But anyways, let's get into the final scenes, last two scenes.
Yes. Mr. Chief, Imperial Chief calls everybody in and says, "Don't get comfortable. There's not a meeting." And he tells everyone, "Get your presentations for all anti-rebellion attacks ready by midnight." And there has been emergency retaliation, planetary emergency retaliation.
I like how calm he is, but you can tell that there's something going on, and there's like there's something serious just happened, but he's very calm about it. Very cool.
Yes.
Exposition.
And then we get to our favorite scene.
Well, first we see Mothra. Yeah.
Where we saw Jar Jar Binks last. I think that's the last time we saw this place.
He could have been there. Yeah, we see our Senate.
The Senate.
But looking very different. There's Imperial signs everywhere. Very few people. And even like the parts where there are people, there's only 2 people in there. Showing that they're still using this for the planets to communicate, but apparently the Imperials have some heavy control over how this communication happens and what actually is being said there and all that. And I like that Mothra is talking, and you can just see everybody. There's just something way more important going on. But I think she mentions.
Is it because I'm a woman?
No, she mentions the same people again from like another episode at like the same time.
Gormans.
Yeah. But yeah, I liked how they played that. And then she pulls out her iPad and it's like, what the hell's going on? And you just slowly start to realize, like, holy shit, okay, this is like everybody knows about this. This is like whatever they just did is big. Big news, the government, the
higher
Imperials, everybody, it's on their radar, and everybody is like, what the fuck just happened?
Yes.
Yeah.
I wonder if the Sith got to know about this.
I have to, of course. At this point, it's in galactic news.
You think the Sith pulled out his iPad? He's like, "Hey, what's going on here?"
He's in control. He's the one behind all of this. All these people are working for the Emperor.
Yeah.
So of course he knows.
You think he's got his own little iPad, or
he's probably got 3.
He has people. He's got like a Matrix control room or something.
He's got one on the toilet, one on his main chair, all over the place.
He's got like VR goggles that he uses for work.
But yeah, and from that scene we get to our boy Luthen finally again.
Our boy.
In our
same way.
Huh?
Like in the same manner of last episode where he literally just pops up in the last scene.
Yeah, and you're back in his shop and he's selling another artifact. And some dickhead in the back is like, "You have something from what's the planet called?
Aldani?
You got some Aldani shit?" He's like, "What the fuck are you talking about? Why
I was just joking, dude."
He's just like, "Yo, it's all over the news, bro. Like, what? You didn't hear about this shit?" He's like, let me check in the back, you goddamn dickhead. Like, who let you in here,
Twitter, bro?
Why are you just in my shop reading the news?
Just sitting around. He's sitting like it's a cafe or something, having a coffee.
You're just like sitting there around the corner. Who the fuck brought you, bro? This is a shop. It's not a cafe. What the fuck?
Funny thing about that was that I noticed that as well. So I obviously put the subtitles on to see, because they have full names in subtitles, even spoilerish names. You know what he's called? Man. He's the only one who doesn't have a name. Even the lady before him who's like trying to buy something, she has a name. He's just Man. So I was wondering maybe if he's going to be a significant character. And then when I saw Man, I was like, okay, it's the most insignificant character in this entire show.
They had it set up where it's like, holy shit, is that Hans Lander? Is that the general that's going to find them? Is that like our big bad? Because he's like,
exactly.
You know about Aldani, don't you?
Right.
He's like, what? And it's like, no, you just saw the news. But then,
dude, I was just joking, dude.
But then, our boy Luthen walks to the back saying, let me go check. And he has a moment that I felt the exact same thing. Just a laugh of joy. where it
Yeah.
wasn't the laugh he had when he first went to that planet and then putting on the fake smile and shit. That's
Mm,
Luthen, real Luthen being like, "We
the real
fucking
Luther.
did it. They
We
did
did
it.
it.
They fucking pulled." He doesn't know they're all dead, which literally they're all dead.
Except, yeah,
Val,
except Vel, at least Vel survived.
Eh, yeah, still all
That's
that
probably his
dead.
daughter.
We'll see. We'll find out. But yeah,
Yeah.
beautiful, and then it just
Yeah.
cut to credits, and it's so good.
He
So
does an
good.
exhale like, and it cuts to black. And it's like,
It's
oh.
like, oh my
And
god! I
even
was sitting
us,
there
we're
just
like,
like
oh.
this, like, oh my god! No, you guys did it. You guys did it. This is even better than episode 3. This is so good, so good.
The moment that ended, I was just like 11.5. That's it. 11.5.
Again, it
The
could have gone
moment it
so
cut.
many ways,
Yeah.
but whatever they did was brilliant. I loved it.
Yes. Everything they did was perfect, except for some things, but it still felt perfect. And even now it feels perfect. And yeah, just a quick note about that dude. The way he talked, the way he looked, the way he was sitting in the background. Normally you have like your cool villains or someone who know way more than anybody else does. And he was just some dude. And yeah, cut to Luthen. He goes back. And like you said, the most genuine feeling. Because remember, he hasn't heard about anything since last episode. Like even he was completely out of comms with all of them.
Yeah, that was the
So
first
since
confirmation.
yeah,
Well,
yes,
sometimes I don't like people finding out the information over the news, but this time it makes sense.
via Twitter,
And he's not the one watching TV, so I give him credit
right?
for that. They figured out a better way than the TV being on in the background, and he just happens to have the exact correct news report on which they just currently talk about the information that he need to move the plot forward and stuff. No, it's random dude in the
Players,
corner who did it.
he's
It happened.
anxious. He's anxious.
It's like exactly what I just mentioned happened, but it happened to another dude off screen, and he just pops in.
Right.
He's like, "Hey, you won't believe what just happened to me."
You gotta come take a look at this.
But yeah.
But yeah, you're right. I was picturing it like he's all Luthen's all anxious, and Clea's like, "Oh, Luthen, I told you not to. I told you to stop worrying. Here, let's put on some TV to distract you." And they put on the TV. It's like the rebels, the rebel attack along the armory, blah, 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 blah. And it's like, "Hey, we did it! Oh my god! Yay, Twitter for informing us these important news." And it's like some dude in the background. It's like, "Dude, I just checked my
credit to
iPad."
that. Credit to
Yeah.
that.
I agree.
But yeah, that's
Yeah, man.
episode 6.
That was the
An
end of the-
incredible episode.
Oof.
Amazing. Again, this has become some of the best TV all year.
Yes.
One of the best properties that projects Star Wars had its name attached to.
Yes.
I will have to at one point rewatch season 2 of Mandalorian because that was my favorite thing until now, specifically TV, where just like they did some insane shit, and it was really good. And it was I just have to compare them and see. The thing is, it's almost hard to compare them. They're so different. Where I
Yes.
think they both can exist parallel to each other without making one worse than the other. But I'm really digging this, where I usually with slow shows, adult shows like this, eventually I'll fall off and like I feel like it's too slow and like no, even like after this episode, I was like, thank God they're doing weekly because holy shit, I was just so hyped. Like I'm so glad that we had the build up to this. I had my time to get to this point, and now like it's still gonna be an amazing watch if you do like what we said at the beginning, do 3 episodes a pop. But yeah, amazing, loved it. Loved it, all about it.
Yeah, I agree completely with that. And the fact that we waited a full week for this just to watch this, the anticipation grew and it was a perfect climax. And I love how now it's like we know exactly what to expect because now we it's confirmed that it's the next 3 episode is going. Hopefully, maybe they do a switcheroo with that, but it's like what's it? Yeah, the whole setup is like episode 1 is like introduction, episode 2 is setup to all the characters and the next plot, and then episode 3 is a climax, and we know everything how it's gonna go. Or maybe they do a switcheroo. I'm excited to just see where everything goes.
Before we get out of here, what are your predictions for episode 7?
Okay, so I don't have predictions, but I had a question,
Oh,
which was what are my wishes? Okay, so even with that, it was like just one thing that popped into my head was that do you think Cass's sister will make an appearance?
She has to. I mean, I don't know if
Right?
we will see her this season, but she will pop up again. I assume that,
Mm.
like, now that Cass is done with this, he has his ship, he's ready to be on the road. He can go back to his original mission, which was his sister,
Looking for a sister.
unless
So I
Luthen
had
comes
a
and finds him.
I had a tiny little prediction about that, where maybe it's like, you know how Marva took Cass. Maybe his sister was taken by an Imperial, and now she grew up in that environment, and she's become an Imperial herself. And it's like he has to redeem her and bring her back to the light side, similar to Han Solo in
I
that
like how
movie
you get
Solo.
that just from the fact that he has a sister.
Yeah, why not, right? Because if you think about it, it goes back to the biggest theme of like nature versus nurture, where it's like if you're just taking like two innocent kids who are
But see,
independent on an
I get
island, taken in different environments, how are they going to grow up within those environments?
so I get what you're
Where it's
saying, but I feel like the only thing that puts a wrench into that theory is the fact that Andor is not a normal protagonist. You cannot put a girl next to, unless she is like super like perfect.
no, so
Like
here
she's the
so
good
here's how
guy,
they could
even though
no
she
so
was
here's how
raised
they
by the
could do
bad
it, right?
guys. You know,
Andor is supposed to be the protagonist who's raised by the right, who's raised the right manner, like not by Imperials. So he's sort of on the right rebel path, but he has flaws which make him, which is like he's fighting with the light and the dark side within himself. So in that same manner, his sister could have been brought up by Imperials, is an Imperial, has a dark side, but within herself, she's like a Kylo Ren, Darth Vader, where she has some light within herself and she's battling with that. And they
yeah,
sort of come together or redeem each other. Or the
yeah.
other small little prediction I had was that what if she's just what if she was one of the prostitutes at the brothel who sold him out because she's still mad at him?
But we
The
saw who it
first
was.
prostitute,
Also, they
but
said
do
that
we
she was already gone for 6 months. But yeah, it could
oh,
be. Maybe they were lying.
right? Like something
But
like that.
yeah. Any predictions for episode 7? Because that's like a
I have
pretty
no
long
idea.
run prediction. I just think because of what we saw with the writers and the director, I think maybe we get a little episode that's just a little standalone. Give us a little breather because
Mm,
it's been fucking ramping up for 6
yeah.
episodes. But let's see. We're very curious to see. I hope it. There's you didn't see Boba Fett, but there was a episode in Boba Fett that was just Mandalorian 2.5. Like it's a little
Okay.
gap. It's showing you what Mandalorian is up to. Actually, there's 2 episodes,
Mm.
but one that didn't have Boba Fett in it at all, and it was basically just giving you the bridge to season 3 of the Mandalorian. Where like now, if you watch the Mandalorian season 3 and you haven't seen Boba Fett, it won't make any sense to you unless which they probably will, but like they'll have to explain to you what happened in those 2 episodes because they were pretty pivotal. So maybe there's something like that. Maybe we'll do see the Sith. Maybe we'll see my boy K2SO. But
Yeah. Why not?
anyways, that's we'll find out next episode.
We'll
Cannot
check it.
wait. Any
Cannot wait.
final thoughts on episode 6, episode 7? Anything you need to let the audience know before we get out of here?
Just tune in, man. Tune in.
Yeah, man. Then why don't you do the sign out and we get out of here?
Oh, yes. Thanks for tuning in, guys. I think we try to keep it a lot like shorter this time, at least in terms of time. I don't know if we managed that, but the episode was 50 minutes long. It's the longest episode we've had so far in all 6 episodes. So it was almost 10 minutes longer than most, like the average episode. But yeah, thanks for tuning in, and subscribe, like, notifications, rate us, please, 5 stars if you like that. Leave comments wherever you can. YouTube, Spotify, Linktree, I think, or
That's where you
just
can
check
find
out our
everything.
Linktree.
Yeah.
That's where you can find our socials: Twitter, Instagram, all of that jazz. We want all of it. Follow us. We're trying to get this channel to grow, and we'll be getting more into Andor. We'll be doing more other stuff as well, and we're going to keep improving on all the other things. And give us any feedback that you can. And even if you can't leave comments, just email us. It's fine. We'll check our emails at the Red Chill Podcast at the rate of the gmail.com. And yeah, man, thanks everyone for tuning in. Hope to see you guys next for the next episode. We're really excited.
Yeah, man. Peace, everyone.